on Thrustmaster. 5500. 31. Rotate.
Hello, hello, is this thing on? Yes, it is. Yes, it is indeed. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Gotta adjust this microphone, it's a little bit low. Right there, I'm gonna be hitting it. Good to see everybody in the house today. It's the last day, Airbus prep check ride. This is it, y'all. This is it. My last opportunity to go through anything in the sim here that I feel like I want to get done before going to training tomorrow. I'll be gone for about the next 6 days, so I'll be in contact with y'all through the Discord. But today we've got a little situation planned. We're operating. This is Atlanta to Boston. I'll tell you right now, we're not going to land in Boston. We're actually going to do the stadium visual into Newark. We're going to have a diversion. I'm going to go through some of my procedures for medical in-flight diversion, something like that, just so I can refresh the memory, jog the old memory bank, get things going. But it should be a fun flight. A little bit, we have a decent cruise, not super long, but we're going to get back into the questionnaire, the real questionnaire for the ground knowledge. We're going to do that in cruise. So this is going to be a very Airbus heavy stream. So I hope you like it. Make sure the catering restocks the number 4 boxes. We'll do it, Cole. Joe, good to see you. Lauren's in the house. Good to see you. V2 plus 10. Scott's here. Steve, Mo Aviator, Flight of Live, Zach Lewine, Bosco, Joe Johnson, Fubar, JETS. Yes, indeed. We're in the Jets livery. I wish someone would make a high quality one of these. I think this paint was done like when the Fenix first released, and there's been some updates, so you can start to see some errors on it. Or if they were just released, whoever made this livery, who would just kind of update it, maybe clean up some things, clean up the wingtip fences, etc. But I do like this livery. Yes, I am a Jets fan. I'm a Cowboys fan too, but I'm a Jets fan. I got to stick true to my OG. I decided to stray from the pack and be a Jets fan when I was a child, and gotta stick with it. Been about 10, 12 years of darkness, and maybe this year will be be something different with old A-Rod. But anyway, we are on VATSIM, Zippy Zapple. We'll be on VATSIM for as long as we can. If we got to get off VATSIM to do what we need to do, we'll do that as well. But should be good. We got, looks like catering has just closed up here. This plane specifically is prohibited from flying the birds on arrival. What's up, Tukatar? Good to see you. JetBlue with CFM is wrong. IE for the win. Hey, if we could just have an IE engine, I agree with you. I agree with you. I wish we'd have IAEs. But in due time, my friends, in due time. So with that being said, looks like catering has serviced the aircraft. I think we should get in and do our job right away. Have I been watching Hard Knocks? I've been watching them. I haven't watched episode 3 yet. I don't have HBO, so I always wait for to find the episode after it's released. I don't want to. I mean, I do. I don't want to pay an extra to get HBO on my TV. It's like an extra $80 a month. I'm like, hell no, dude. So I'll just watch it when they come out online or whatever. But yes, I am watching it. Pretty interesting stuff. Pretty interesting. James, good to see you. Gary Stewart, sweet looking livery. I agree, man. I agree. It's different. You know, it's different. It's different indeed. Being a Cowboys fan is a penance for any wrong we've ever done suffering year. Fubar, I hear you, man. I hear you. So we do have one little update on this livery. I think has messed with the wing texture too. You notice that the wing texture doesn't look as good on this livery, and I know see there, this wing texture looks good, but this wing texture got messed up. I don't know what happened there. What I will say though, as far as settings goes, I did some more landings in the Fenix. I know we've been a hot topic of discussion. How does this airplane land? I'm running the straight linear, no reactivity. I like it. I think it's good. We'll talk a little bit more about what I think is happening as far as destabilization and stuff when you're coming in on approach. I think but to sum it all up, the too long didn't listen answer for the airplane feeling in Microsoft is the airplane is doing airplane things that it should be doing. I think we as simmers are battling some elements in the sim that aren't necessarily realistic. Take into account wind shear or turbulence effects, wind effects on aircraft, the glide slopes and PAPIs being misaligned, 50-50 shot, depends on what airport you go into. Sometimes they're on, sometimes they're not. So I think all of that kind of comes into play. But as far as the airplane, after doing multiple tests, I like what it does. And the true test for me, the true experience will be when we get a standalone engine model with the IAE engines and a little bit more flappage as well, 40 degrees. Does it still bounce? I haven't really had any bounce issues. So, and there's no more nose up stuff that I've been able to tell. That nose actually comes down really slow now. So should be good. Let's get it fired up, shall we? Up here to the overhead, we're going to go battery 1, battery 2. And we'll go right into this here. We'll get the airplane sounds up a little bit more. She's going to come to life. Digital Mark, good to see you. Welcome to the stream. I'll rewatch the stream later. Mentally exhausted. Been a rough day. I need sleep. Airbus 172 Skyhawk Max. What a name. Get some rest, my friend. Thanks for stopping by, though. Smash that like button and get some rest, dude. How about those Chiefs? Gary, you're a Vikings fan? Man, well, hopefully old Dalvin Cook will do something for us this year. All right, screens are coming to life. As that happens, we'll let that do its thing. Let's kind of just go over our flow. I should have done that from the get-go. We'll come into the cockpit, make sure that the landing gear lever is down. These are off. That's off. Off, all around there. Overhead, windshield wipers are off. Battery's on. External power is on. No white lights out here. We'll get our, that goes there, that goes there. No white lights on the cargo panel. This can go in the aft position, is fine. Or I'll just tell you what, we'll just go right there. We'll just keep it cold. That looks good. And then we would come back down here, and we have a smoke detect. This is an interesting one. I'm not quite sure what this is coming from. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what's happening with that. Most of our aircraft have removed the cargo heat as well, so you got to be very careful if you're transporting live animals. You got to make sure you're in an aircraft that can handle that with cargo heat, because it will get pretty cold. Even though the pressurization is there, they'll freeze to death. So you got to make sure, if that is a thing. Some airlines just say no animals, no cargo heat. Some animals have a mixed fleet, and then you got to kind of be careful with this panel up here. But I've just noticed we started to get that little power up bug there with the that cargo aft isolation valve. Anyway, status recall is good. This is just because everything's powering up here. Kind of looks like an Embraer 170. Let's come down to the FMGC. Let's go into our initialization. Let's do an init request. Captain, when would you perform a cargo smoke test? Never. Or instructed by maintenance. I've been asked this question. I actually asked the mechanic on the line, and because I thought it was a great question. We test everything else. We test the engine fire. But the thing is, and when the airplane powers up, it does its own SIDS test, so it does testing in the lab and stuff. But we do not press the cargo smoke test. I've never done it as long as I've been on the Airbus. I've never done it as a normal procedure, and mechanic told me it's because they test it. It's part of their checks, and I think it might also have something to do with if you're constantly checking at every leg or every crew swap, and then you have a combination of guys moving around in the cargo compartment. I don't know if they need to not be in there when they do the cargo test, just in case there's a potential for something to go wrong. I don't know, but that was a great question, and the medium answer that I got back was it's a maintenance function. So, yep. Not exactly sure what the record is, but they do pretty well during the season. Yeah. I think you need to recycle the engine masters. Ground control on. Let's see. Nope, ground control came on. Ground control is on. Everything looks good. Speaking of overhead flow, let's do that right now. Ground control. We're going to start here, actually. We'll go cruise supply ground control. CVR test. Beep. Captain Purrs, Captain. 1, 2, 3. Boom, boom. Hey, Cat Cow, good to see you in the chat, man. I was going to ask you, I forgot. What did you say? When do you go to training for your 220 upgrade, man? That's awesome. When do you go into training for that? We'll go auto position, arm U. Everything looks good here. Nothing on the overhead. We know the battery test would fail, so we're just going to go ahead and not do it right now. Engine 1, engine 2. First officer is going to test the APU, which already did. Everything looks good on the overhead, out and on for the that. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Back down into the box. We could do a couple other checks here. We should do our hydraulics, which are good. Our engine oil quantities, 11 quarts here for a classic, and the pressurization is in the auto position. Wonderful. Flight plan in number, we are CACO 357. Cost index, we'll do 75. Cruise flight level, what did we file today? Oh, they haven't put out the training dates? Oh, okay. All right, so I didn't know if you got them right out of the gate. Anyway, that's exciting, man. Congratulations, dude. That's awesome. What did I file here? We filed 350. Let's put 350 in the box. There we go. IRS and NIT. We're going to let it do it on its own. And let's come back to the secondary. Let's go here. Atlanta to Atlanta. V1, have you ever ran into an issue with the aircraft, or with this aircraft where your instruments are delayed? Stuttering. Then get better back to Aviator. I have not personally experienced that, but I believe there have been reports of that. That is why some people have, or that's why Fenix has that option in the EFB to force synchronization. But unfortunately, since I haven't experienced it, I don't have any first-hand knowledge to give you on that. So I'm going to put 27 right here in the ILS, just so we have to come back around. But I know there's an option in the EFB for you to Aviator that says force synchronization. Maybe that's what you need to try. All right, 3012 on the altimeter. Temperature off the ECAM is 31 degrees in hot Atlanta. It's going to be spicy, man. It's been so hot and humid here. Well, I shouldn't say it hasn't been hot. It's been humid. It has been very humid in Atlanta these last couple of days. I have this issue all the time. I've tried both the options and no go. Wow, man, maybe hit up Fenix for a support ticket, because I'm sorry to hear that, man. That's unfortunate. It should not be happening. All right, secondary is done. RadNav page, nothing to hard tune. We'll put the airport reference point in here for the prog page. Perf data, next phase, next phase. Everything looks good. We'll go here, and our block fuel should be on board. It is. We need 20.6 on board and balanced. And with that said, let's go get our fuel tank pumps on. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. Well, that's more than that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Learn to count. It's 100. It feels like 115 in Chicago because of the humidity. Mark, ouch, man. That's rough. That's rough. Zane says, I have my TIF a couple weeks ago. Can't wait to fly again. Awesome, Zane. I bet your butt I'll be bidding over to the 320 once the seat lock is up. Yeah. Oh, you got, man. How long is the seat lock? A year? 2 years? Probably just a year, right? All right. We do have our initial stuff done here. 124.7 and 27.4. 1, 2, 4, 28.7 and 27.4. We'll put that there for now. And let's get the APU ready, and let's get the people boarding right now. Heat index was 52 in Chicago. Ouch. Rough one, man. Rough. All right, we'll get our constraint modes on. VOR mode here, and cruise altitude. What did I say? 35? Yeah, 35. We'll throw 35. Oh. 35 is set. What's the cabin temp? It's probably pretty. It's 99 degrees in the old cabin. So let's go ahead and crank this APU right now before the boarding starts. Did I mess up the CG? 27.4? Oh, I put 37.4? That'll make a difference. Let me go. I'll fix that. Thank you. Do you want to board crew? Nope, we're already on board. Entering wrong CG numbers. In real life, do you guys keep the lights under the glare shield off, or do you always keep them on? Chris, the lights under the glare shield. Oh, you mean like the tray table lights, the one directly under there? Or do you mean the floodlight? So, as a captain, I like to mess with the floodlights that kind of light up the panel where you can see like your numbers, your flap speeds and all that stuff. I like to just crack those to the lowest possible setting at night because I think it makes them look nice and cozy. It's kind of like a captain. It's not, but it's kind of like a captain switch because it's right here. If you're talking about this main panel flood. If you're talking about this one under here, I turn that on at night all the time because I'll have my paper right here on our handy dandy tray table, and I'll be writing down the CG number, the perf, all that good stuff. That way when we're on the taxi out and the first officer is running through a checklist and he calls for an item to be verified, I'll double check it because I'll check it before we push. And on the taxi out, the first officer's doing a bunch of checking and looking down and cross-referencing information. So while he's doing that, I'll also just double check what I wrote down and look here. But I want to have it available to me to see without looking and digging for it because I am the one taxiing the aircraft. So you got to make sure you keep your head outside mode all the time. But if I just have to glance down at something, I have it right there. So yes, I use this light quite frequently when I am or at nighttime. But during the day, you can't even really see it. Matter of fact, sometimes you just, like, that's actually pretty good. I don't know if it's on or off. I think this way is off. So it's off now. I hate the floodlights. No, only, well, okay, so the LED ones on the Neos do kind of suck because it's like when you go 0 to on and it's just too bright. But on the older ones, you could just get a little bit of bleed through right here for the panels. And I think it makes the panel just look so nice and cozy. I like it. I feel it's like a real cockpit, you know? If you turn it off, it's just like staring into the abyss. Everything's black except your screens. But yeah, I do like messing with that switch. I never really messed with it when I was in FO because you always feel kind of, I don't know, I always felt weird. Like I'm sitting over here and I got to like reach over and like, hey, you know, touching the floodlight. But it is what it is. Been a while. My girlfriend unfortunately passed away on 13 May after fighting for her life for 3 weeks in the ICU. She was taken to the hospital 24. Dave Hagen, I'm very, very sorry to hear that. Sorry for your loss, man. I'm very sorry to hear that. That is unfortunate. Hopefully she can rest now in peace. And maybe we can help ease your mind ever so slightly here by doing something we all commonly enjoy. But that is a very, very tough thing to go through. I'm sorry for you. And thank you for stopping by and being with us while you can. I like the old EIS displays. Yeah, the EIS, you mean like the EIS 1? All right, everything else is good. The APU has been on. It's been on for about 3 minutes. Let's go ahead and turn the bleed on. I'm going to leave the power on as well so we can kind of split the load. You can hear it spool up. Hear those packs spooling up. I love that. When the packs load up, should have the air come into the cabin here any moment. V1, let's see what a 250-hour pilot can do today. Matt, good to see you. Welcome on board. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. Airbus heavy. I've got my rest of my stuff to check. We're going to talk about some more questions in cruise. I've been studying my limitations. Boom, boom, boom. Ready to go. So I'm pretty confident on that part. But I do want to dig more into the book here when we get up to our cruise altitude. We're going to do everything by the book on the ground. We'll do our full brief and all that stuff as well. I wonder if Fenix will update the tray table to have both fold-out options. Jeez. Now we're really starting to split hairs. Where did you get your screen camera settings from the A320? I made them sack smacker. So all the screen settings you see, like I moved around the cockpit and I set my camera views the way I want to set them. and I save them. If you want to know how I got the wing views and how I make all that happen, just hit !wing view in chat and watch XP72's video. And if you just do that, just do what he suggests, the way that you bind your controls, so you'll never have an issue getting a binding, or never have an issue finding a view that you like, because you can make every view that you want with the click of a button. Shaq Oatmeal, what is up, man? Hello, everybody. Ready for some good conversations with other people and live, Shaq. Live conversations. Good to see you, Shaq. Welcome on board. 24 months of big bar status. Look at that. 2 years as a member. Shaquille Oatmeal, my man. Hey, I'm going to be stopping down to your neck of the woods, Charlotte. My first trip after training, Shaq. Are you working on the... I'm not going to be overnight. I just fly in. Oh, no, it's not my first trip. Good. That way, if I, we go off the end of the runway, I won't have to explain myself to you. It's actually not until the 21st. That's when the 21st of September, I do a little turn visit to old Charlotte. Jets go Dolphins. Cacao, you're a Dolphins fan? Oh no, we're gonna have to ban you already. I was just starting to like you, man. Hey, Dolphins fan? Rip. My wife's father, my father-in-law is a hardcore Dolphins fan from South Florida. Ugly weather here in Jersey. Robinson J. Santana, good to see you, man. I don't even know what the weather is up there. I'm hoping we'll be able to pull off the stadium visual. Should I have checked the radar? What's the radar doing up there in Jersey? Gustavo's here. What's up, man? Let me check the weather radar. Oh, goodness me. We have a massive 20 gifted membership from Douglas Phillips. Douglas Phillips, very, very kind of you. Thank you for dropping a massive $20 gifted sub, more than $20 to the channel. And that's very kind of you. If you picked up a membership from Douglas Phillips, make sure you say thank you. That's very kind of him to spread the love, spread the one of us Team Green here on V1 Nation. So appreciate you, Douglas. Shaq says, I'll be working. If you're here long enough, I'll bring over some Bojangles. Oh, good, just so I can have the bubble guts halfway back to Atlanta. I'll wait till I get back to eat it. Thanks, Shaq. Delta is coming after you. I saw a Delta landing over there earlier. I'll pause the alert box here for a little bit. Man, how about that flight deck to sim announcement? I thought for sure he was going to the Airbus. I was watching that just before the stream started. That's why we were a few minutes late. I was like, I want to see him take off. I thought for sure he was switching to the Airbus. He had me trolled. He trolled me. Took off work yesterday to take care of the little one who had his first shots yesterday. Oh man, that's always a rough one. First batch of shots, always rough. All right, looks like we're getting cargo's pretty much wrapping up. I guess at this point we can do we'll do a quick departure brief while we're at it. Matter of fact, let's just run our perf data so we can get rid of that speed select there on the PFD. We wouldn't really have that in the real world configuration because we wouldn't have our init done yet. Let's see here. Where is the what runway are we taking off of? I want to go 26. They're landing 26, 27. So we'll do 26 left. Atlanta dry. Optimum force Toga. We might have to flex today. Packs on. Sync final. 44 max takeoff weight. Sync live. 320 at 3. 3010. What's going to give us today? 45, 47, 47. Flap 1. Flex of 63. Ugh. Ugh. Have we ever done a flex takeoff in the Phoenix? I don't think so. I'm going to find out. There's only room enough for one YouTube There's only enough room on YouTube for one Boeing driver to switch to the Airbus, and 7.3 already took that spot. That's right. We would have no more 7.3 drivers on YouTube, right? Oh, man. Why, we didn't even put our flight plan in here, y'all. What are we doing? 26 left. Palmer 3 to Berg. Insert. Boston. ILS, we'll just say 4 right. Roebuck. Roebuck 3, never forget Boston. Had a couple of memorable approaches into Boston. One was my very first Cat 2 50-foot hand-flown minimum. That was a eye-opener, and then I had a pretty nasty wind shear in Boston. Two of my most memorable moments, not very awesome ones. Initialization, we have JFK as our alternate right now, but we actually have another alternate of Newark, New Jersey, should we need it. A little bit of foreshadowing there. All right, we're finishing up the boarding process. Everything is looking good. We can come back over here. I thought I could open the cockpit door. Am I crazy? All right, I guess we can't open the cockpit door. I swear we could have opened the cockpit door before. We'll take a seat right here on the jump seat while we wait. And Douglas Phillips dropping another $50 super chat. Douglas Phillips, very, very kind of you. He says, and for V1 for the greatest content. Hey, Douglas Phillips, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for a massive $50 super chat. I'm glad you're enjoying the content. I think we've been having a lot of fun the last couple of weeks here. Taking a break from line flying, get to spend a lot of time with all y'all, my friends and followers of the channel. Thank you, Douglas. That's very, very kind of you. Thank you. You can't if cabin is disabled. Oh, that's what it is, Carol. I do have cabin disabled on this one. That's right. Yep, I disabled it. That's why I opened it. Yep. Thank you. Thank you. 26 left is currently closed. Not in flight sim. What we can do, though, let's come up here. Let's turn external power off so we're ready to go. We'll get these back up. How's our cabin temps? Remember, we can't board past what? 85. So, yeah, we're good. Nice and cool now. Those packs work really good. Gustavo wants to see a flap 2. What's flap 2 going to do here? Can you run flap 2 just to see the MTOW limit on the tablet? With flap 2, 45, 45, 48. Where does it show? Does it show a published max takeoff? Did it change somewhere? It's actually the same. 45, 45, 48. What do we have? 45, 45, 47. Oh, 700 kilograms more restricted. All right. Well, we're going to keep it with flap 1 today. All right, let's do a quick mini brief. We got to get back into the, I got to get back into the swing of things here. So you all are my FOs. Do a quick brief here. No OBs, OEBs, anything that's come out recently that's going to affect the performance of this flight. We're in the classic 320 with no sharklets. There's no MELs or CDLs that affect the performance of the aircraft. If all goes as well, we're going to start them up. Let's do a 2-engine taxi out. I'll tell you what, let's do a single-engine taxi to practice that. We just do a quick single-engine taxi to get moving. Single-engine taxi, expect 26 left for departure. No hot spots to cross. Once we get out on, once we make the corner out here, we'll see, make sure that there's nobody in line, and then we'll just start the second engine. Off runway 26 left today, we're departing the Palmer 2, which is, or 3, excuse me. Palmer 3 RNAV departure. We got a top altitude of 10,000 per our V1 PDC. We're going up to 350. No restrictions except Zealand at 250 knots. If we lose an engine off 26, we got a simple special, which is at or above. I don't have a paperwork in front of me. I don't remember what it is. It's been so long since I've flown. Basically like above 500 feet or something, 1560, above 1600 feet, we fly the SID. Below that, we fly straight out, runway heading, speed up, clean up. We'll go up to 2400 feet, acceleration out to 2400, come back around. And actually, that's wrong. No, it's not. 2400 feet, come back, speed up, clean up, come back around. We'll land on 27 right, long dry runway. ILS is in there for the backup if we need it. Any questions, comments, concerns? No questions? All right, sounds good. 350, good squawk of 2000, and cockpit preparation checklist. Cockpit preparation checklist, maintenance log and tail number on board and check. Hairpins and covers are removed. Seat belts are on. ADIRS, nav, and fuel. 18.5 required, 20.5 on board. Altimeter's 3012 set. EFB is checked. Cockpit preparation checklist is complete. All right, if that's the case, let's do this. Let's do this. No, I don't want to do that. And then when we get them all locked and loaded here, I try to run green LEDs, but they don't come through the camera very well, so I have to apologize for that.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
All right, before start checklist, windows, doors, and slides, close an arm, beacon on, thrust levers idle, parking brake is on. Before start checklist is complete. We're going nose left, tail right. Flight sim guy has been briefed. Good deal. What stadium is it? Name howitzer. It's the Jet Stadium. It's a Jets Giant Stadium there, MetLife Stadium. And this is a real set option. So we were talking about training all this week. So this particular stadium visual is a scenario that I could be thrown my way as well. So I haven't done it in real life, and I haven't done it in the sim before. So I figured the first time I see it, I don't want it to be in the actual simulator doing it. So we're going to do it here on Microsoft, just like yesterday. Man, what an engine out procedure that was. I am hoping I don't get that EO SID from Reno on my recurrent LOE, because that was a frickin' handful. Even if we had an FO, even if you're doing the managed nav on the EO SID, that whole thing is just a cluster. So hopefully I think that'd be my least favorite option. I'm looking at all the possible opportunities that can get thrown my way. I think that's going to be my number one least favorite. So that means I'll probably get it. I want to go nose left, tail right. Oh yeah, we got to move the Fenix chocks. Let's do it. Let's do it. Gary Stewart has upgraded to commercial pilot. Gary Stewart, that's very kind of you. Welcome to the commercial pilot side of things. Glad to have you on board. And as a member, brakes release, clear to push. As a member and all the new members, courtesy of Douglas Phillips, as I go into the training this week, I'll try to get some shorts videos your ways, and hopefully, I don't know who I've got for my instructor, but I know quite a few of them down there at the old training center. So if I get one of my buddies, hopefully we can. I'll see if I can get something filmed for y'all, and I'll throw it up on a shorts video if I can get something from training. But it'll all depend on who I get. Jeremy, good to see you, my friend. Maybe they'll give it to you because it's a lot of work. Maybe. I actually don't know. They used to do it. It was like a random, depending on what week of the month. So basically every month they have the sets available. Then each week of that month is a specific set of sets that can be issued. That way, even if you talk to your buddies, even if a guy just came out, since training is 6 days long, he probably didn't have the same set, whereas he or she probably didn't have the same set, so it doesn't really matter. That's kind of what this whole new training thing that we're doing is all about. It's to kind of rid the rote memorization and the familiarity in training and make it more of a realistic environment where you don't know what's coming. For example, before this, I always knew exactly what I'd get. Go into the sim, Seattle, 1-6 center, RNAV, ILS Cat 3, single engine, departure, come back around, single engine landing, stall steep turns, and you're done. That's pretty much what you always got on your PC. Now, with this whole new set of training, it's completely different. Your speech and manners show much arrogance. Really? Well, that's very interesting. I can tell that you just want to come here and troll, so we'll just do this. It's so easy for me, just one click and you're done. Sounds like you're soft, Vag. If I am arrogant to you, if I sound arrogant, then you must be soft, and I'm sorry for you.
Please set parking brake.
Brakes are set. Clear to disconnect. We need less softies in this world. Here in V1 Nation, we're going to be accountable, and we're going to encourage everyone to have stronger opinions of themselves. Gotta head out, Zach. Take it easy, my friend. Catch it on the replay. I don't know, Guru. Some person I've never seen before. Obviously a troll. V1 Nation is only hard. Exactly. That's what look, we're going to keep this stream on track today, but I think it's important that we can have differences in opinion, and I think it's important that everybody can voice that opinion, and then you can accept or reject opposites to that opinion, but we can all do it cordially, because that's how it's supposed to be. If I just sat here and I said this is the way, the only way, and if someone said no, that's not the way, and I got offended or whatever the scenario is, that's not good for anybody. Like, let's all have bring our thoughts in, bring our difference of opinions in. Let's talk about it. I'll tell you why I do things this way. You tell me why you do things that way. If we agree to disagree, shake hands, move on. I'll see you at the bar. Let's go. Look at this guy. Man, Shaq, can you do that yet? Hey, Shaq, can you drive the tug like that? Because that's hardcore right there. And it's that's pretty hardcore, Shaq. I'm going to go into Charlotte just to see, I want to see you drive the tug like that. I want to see how fast. Have a tug race. We're going to line up 3 different tugs with the tow bar in front. First one down the runway gets free beer. All right, there's the pin. Let's go ahead and start them up. Engine mode to ignition start, turning 1, because we're back in the US of A. Hit it.
Clear to start engine.
Jeremy, just to get to you, your question there before the engine's down starts. One is part of the enhanced JipWhiz, and the other one, terrain pull up, that's the GPWS. That's off the rad out. The caution is the E, the enhanced JipWhiz, where you've left the terrain clearance floor. That part that is required, you'd know where you are. The airplane know where you are. That's the E JipWhiz part that goes off. That goes off first. Of course V1 is arrogant. He's an Airbus captain. We'll do we said we'd do a single engine. Let's go ahead and do a single. Wait, what was that? Oh man, someone doing a right departure out there? That's cool. I'll wait for the click over here. There's the avail. Let's go do here. Yellow electric pump is on. APU bleed is off. That's going to go there. That's going to go there. We're going to go at flaps 1. The next sim prep, you need to have heart rate monitor being displayed on the screen. Gustavo, I tell you what, man. That first time we were in the TOLUS, the first time we did the single engine ILS to minimums, I was hand flying it, dude. When we hit the approach lights right at minimums, just like they do it in the sim, no lie, Gustavo. I had the same exact feeling sitting here at my desk that I do when I'm in the sim box and we're doing that approach. That's pretty hard to do. Okay, flap set, that's good. Trim is 0.3 down, something like that. Oh, we needed to fix our CG. Y'all said I put that in wrong. Let me go here. Let's go fuel. Ooh, 37.4. It was supposed to be 27.4, right? Let's go back here. Weight and balance. 27.4. That might make a difference to how she flies, for sure. Gross weight right now, 25.1. Well, that doesn't look right at all. Let me just run this perf again real quick here. Let me run this again real quick just to make sure we don't have tail strike on takeoff here. We're going to do flapper row optimum and sync, calculate us again here. What do we need for trim? Up 0.5. So it helps if you go the right direction. That, my friends, 25.1, 25.1, looks much more accurate. Very good. See, crisis averted, threat and air management assessed, and we're good to go. Let's go ahead and start our taxi out. Yellow electric is on. That's coming on. Brakes released. Yellow electric pump is going to inhibit the PTU from operating. I haven't done any single engine taxiing since the new taxi model, so let's see if how she does here. Let's get it rolling. What's the reason for turning off the APU bleed after turning on the yellow? Chris Duper, just so you don't have a dual bleed going down the for however long you're doing your single engine taxi. You could get, some fumes in there from the operating engine. and or they just, if you're trying to save fuel, you might as well unload the APU. I don't know, it's kind of silly. The secret, Chris Stuper, is if you're going to do a single engine taxi real quick, a highly advanced first officer, at least for us because they do the engine starts on ground, they'll leave the APU bleed on, because now when I go to start number 2, we're going to have to wait about 10, 15, maybe 10 seconds to get the bleed pressure up. If I were to have left the APU bleed on, as soon as we go to start 2, you have bleed pressure, and boom, you can start it. So sometimes I'll include that in the briefing. I'll say, hey, let's just start 1, leave the bleed on so we can get rolling. Maybe we're departing on a congested ramp. People are waiting for gates. So that way we can start taxiing as soon as the tug disconnects, and then as soon as we're ready to start 2, we don't have to wait for that 10, 15 second bleed pressure to build up, and we just go ahead and crank number 2. So the procedure is to shut the bleed off. Variety of small reasons. It's not going to hurt the airplane by keeping it on by any means, but it's more of a time thing too. If you keep it on, you just go right into the number 2 start. Don't sink, Jeremy, is when you're still in takeoff phase, and you're supposed to be climbing away from the ground. Sink rate is in the landing phase. Yeah, these CFMs are just a little weak. That's 30%. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and start number 2 just because we got CFMs. Yellow electric pump on, APU bleed on. Now watch, when I go here, you'll see we have no bleed pressure, so we got to wait for that. By the way, we should have done brake check, pressure 0. We can't do a mini brief or anything else until we get the second engine started. Still waiting, still waiting. There's our bleed pressure. Starting engine 2. You can hear the PTU is operating now, which is correct. If the APU bleed valve does not close, you could back pressure the something valve. I can't see. The little heart thing is on the way. Oh, the high pressure valve. Yeah, oh, backflow. You could have backflow, I guess. Yeah, that's another reason. Do you ever start number 2 on just engine bleed, or do you need APU? You can start number 2 on a cross bleed just like you would number 1. There's nothing prohibiting you to start an engine depending on which other, like, you can start 1 or 2 all of the ways. It's just our procedure here. We start 1 first. Oh, someone's taking off. An easy, sleazy jet. Yeah, don't sink on takeoff, more power, and watch that sink rate. So pitching up, but if you're, remember, you don't want to just pitch up and stall it either. Don't sink means you are descending. So theoretically, yes, pitching up is what you need to do. All right, APU bleed, come off, APU can come off. That's going to go here. We're already armed. We're already flaps config 1. Now we can do after start checklist. After start checklist, NIS, it's off. Yellow electric pump is off. Rudder trim 0. After start checklist complete. Mini brief, please. Mini brief. It's going to be off of runway 26 left, plumber 3 departure. Gross weight is 145,000 pounds. Fuel on board is 20.3. Speeds 145, 147. Flex 63 set. Initial altitude 350. Standard transition. First fix RNAV to MPAS. Any questions? No questions. Flight controls. Here we go. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral. Rudder. Full left. Full right. Neutral. So you see how we still get that mini nose wheel turn. That's a Microsoft limitation. The TOLUS in X-Plane 12 doesn't have that sim limitation, so it actually works correctly, because you should be able to go disconnect, nose over, no nose wheel movement, and that's a sim limitation. All right, taxi checklist. Gross weight person is complete. Pitch trim is 25.1% CG set. V1, VR, V2 flex. My side, 26 left, 45, 45, 47, 63 set. Flaps config, 1+F. Flight controls checked. ECAM memo. Takeoff all green. ECAM status is checked. Seatbelts on, or ECAM status is checked. And TCAS is TARA. Taxi check is complete. All right. Dougal, can't make this one. Have a great trip. Dougal, take it easy, man. No worries. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening out there in Europe land, my friend.
Traffic.
No. Phoenix, you're drunk. On the ground. They're goes an unknighted. That might be my buddy Russ. Unknighted, 320 CFM. Interesting. Do you actually do your flight control checks while taxiing? Yep. Yeah, Gary. Most all the times I'll do it while taxiing unless there is something prohibiting me or something that I would consider a threat. Maybe it's super low vis. I want both eyes outside, both sets of eyes outside the whole taxi, so maybe we're low vis, right? 600 RVR. Probably not the best idea to be doing flight controls while taxiing. I would much rather have the FO assisting me with visual cues outside. Other condition, like a super short taxi. So for instance, depending on where your gate may be in proximity to your departure runway, if it's only a 60-second taxi to get over there's a couple airports that happens at. Cleveland's notable one. There's a couple others where if depending on which runway's in use, it's literally a 30-second taxi from the gate to the runway. In that instance, we'll elect to do our flight control checks, everything at the gate after start, because that also allows the engines to warm up, and then as soon as we're ready to taxi, we're ready to go. But super long taxi out, nothing wrong with doing it on the go. Also, you can't do any of your taxi checks until the second engine is started, so that's another thing to keep in mind. If you're doing a single engine taxi, you're not going to be able to do any of your checklists until that second engine is started, right? So you got to allow time for that. You were pushing back and Microsoft crashed? Oh, Water, I'm sorry, man. You got some gremlins, it sounds like, in your system there, Water. Sorry to hear that, man. And I was not on Unicom. All right, let's do a let's see. I see. Oh, I did not see. Well, let's wait. So I'll do the lineup checklist once we see the runway. Are the rudder pedals linked in the Airbus? Guru, yes, they are up to a certain degree. So you can, like, here I am. I'm turning with my feet. You see how gradual that is? That's pretty accurate to the real thing. That's about what it does if I was just using rudder pedals. Now, making a 90-degree turn, you can do it, especially with the assistance of a differential thrust. But it's much more difficult than if you were to just use the tiller. The tiller has much more degree of travel on the nose wheel. And then also, as you are accelerating, though, that is going to vary. So as the ground speed increases, the tiller becomes less effective. The rudder becomes less effective as far as nose wheel linkage, direct nose wheel, and then above, what's it, like 80 knots? It's completely not doing anything. I know Gustavo will have the answer for
Land
me.
of traffic United 556 is north of the field, climbing through 5,800.
The old airline had implemented the flight control check after engine start with the mechanic in the intercom, all because 173 operator had RTO because no flaps. What? Dang. I gave Southwest Taxi and Takeoff clearance from the ramp in the same transmission because they were so close. Yeah, Detroit, exactly. Detroit can do it. Regulator decided that all operators needed to have mechanics to wave off that you had flight control checks, flat for takeoff. Wow, Gustavo. That's crazy. All right, there's 26 left. Let's do a lineup checklist. Lineup checklist, runway 26 left, confirmed. Fuel, 18.5 required, 20.2 on board. Engine mode selector is normal. Bleeds and packs are set. Before takeoff checklist is complete, and before all that, FO would have done his flow, would have done that, and all that good stuff. So that would have been the FO's job. All right. I don't see anybody on final. Atlanta traffic, JetBlue 357, going to line up and wait, runway 26 left, Atlanta. Here we go, line up and wait. Lights, top row comes on. These go to the extend position. Line up and wait. Did I see the Alaska Smackdown? Zippy, I did. We're going to talk, so once we get up, we're going to talk about the landing characteristics in this version. We're also going to talk about what makes this airplane different than, say, the 320neo. And we're going to talk about, I normally don't like to use profanity on stream if I can help it, but there are 3 types of Airbus landings that I refer to. We have a normal landing, which is either a really good greaser or sometimes just a little bit firm, but it's a normal landing. And then there are 2 other types of landing. One is the oh shit landing and one is the well shit. And we're going to talk about those in length today once we get airborne, because I think what we're experiencing here on the sim in Microsoft is a combination of those. So stick around for that convo. Looks like we got a clear runway 26 left. Runway heading is 275. That checks. I think we're ready. Do you guys want to do a last minute toga or not? This is the rapid. This is it. This is the end of Airbus for a while, because when I come back, we're not flying any Airbus. I need 250 likes if you guys want to do a toga. 250 likes, 60 seconds. Smash down that like button. I will consider that we have a wind shear, and we'll pull out the wind shear decision aid right now. Say Atlanta tower comes on, says JetBlue 357. Use caution, wind shear alert reported by a departing 737 again, or a loss of 10 knots on the departure. Advise intentions. Copy, stand by. Give us about 60 seconds. So we'll pull out our wind shear threat decision aid, which will be in our QRM, which will be in this stupid app that we have now, which I don't like because I can never get, I'm not used to this whole thing. Flight ops manuals, QRM. You would think it would be at the top, right? Because that'd be like the most common thing. No, it's at the bottom. What a great thing. TM. All right, what do we got? We are at 60 seconds. 230 likes. We're almost there. If you hit 250, we'll go. I'll let you go an extra 30. I'll let you go until I can figure out this. So we have a runway specific wind shear, but we don't have any other factors. There's nothing in the ATIS. There's no cumulonimbus clouds. There's no convective activity. So we only have one high risk factor. We could elect to take off, or we could, at captain's discretion, elect to wait. It's been 30 seconds. Where are we at? We're at 235. I guess it won't happen. All right, let's go ahead and kill the chrono. JetBlue 357, we're ready for departure now. JetBlue 357, roger. Runway 26 left. RNAV to MPAS. Cleared for takeoff. Here we go. Spool them up 50. Manflex, SRS runway, auto thrust blue.
Traffic, Frontier 5321, lining up.
Mantoga, SRS runway, auto thrust blue. Oh, that was a lame one. That was lame. Mantoga, SRS runway, auto thrust blue, 80 knots, thrust set. 100 knots, check. We actually have, we're going to have to go that, we had to go Toga anyway. V1. Rotate. Positive rate. Hero. Navin. Fly with. Pretty sure I'm going to say fly with in my sim. At least we'll get, because you guys played along and we hit 250, you'll get an epic decel here, or reduction.
Line of traffic, Frontier 5321, takeoff, 26 miles.
Thrust climb, nav. At least you get that decel. That was good. Yeah, I had that lever asymmetry, Gustavo, so we had to go Toga anyway. That's all right, but we did get that juicy decel. And we're on our way, chat. We are on our way. JetBlue 357, contact departure. Our departure. JetBlue 357. Feels good, Guru. She feels real good. I like the way she feels. There's S-speed. Flap 0. After takeoff checklist. Speed checks. Flap 0. Look at Atlanta in the background out there. Man, everyone's sweating today, that's for sure. Nice and humid. Nice and humid. The chime, Jeremy, that was a lever asymmetry. I didn't, because I was like not committed to going to flex, I think it just kind of messed up where the thrust lever position was. But that's a real thing. If that happens, if you go to flex and you get some thrust error, it'll say Toga, or if it says thrust lever not set, put them in Toga. And just get rid of it. Go right up to Toga. If I'm not mistaken, that was part of my 190 reject in Halifax. We had a lever asymmetry that didn't resolve itself, which was it. It was like the throttle got out of sync or something. If I remember, I think that was on that 190. We're on a 190 charter out of Halifax, and on the takeoff roll, we had a. I don't think it was called lever asymmetry in the Embraer. I forget what it was, but whatever the remedy was it didn't work, and like going through 100 knots, it was an abort, and it was pretty hardcore. How to add traffic to the ND? Make sure you're flying on a traffic network, such as VATSIM. Hand flying feels pretty good. Hand flying feels pretty good. 250 knot restriction here at Zealand. Oh yeah, look at that juice. Downtown Hotlanta. In real life, how is it determined whether you're going to flex or Toga? That's a great question. It's a good check ride question. So all normal takeoffs are going to be done in flex, unless you have several factors such as contaminated runway. It would be prohibited. Wind shear, MEL that would require you to use Toga thrust, and if your flex number is within 10 degrees of your outside air temperature. So let's say you get a flex of 52 and the temperature is 42. Then you would not flex, because now you're too close for that derate. You might have one engine go full power and one engine not. So in that case, we just go full Toga. I think that's all of them. I think, yeah, Crazy Flyer, that sounds right. TLA, not Toga. Are you talking about the Embraer? It's been so long since I've been on that airplane. If that's what it is, then yeah, it was something with the thrust lever angle, and I remember fiddling with it, and it still didn't work. Like, well, we're not taking this airborne, so abort. There's 11. We're at 10,000 feet. We'll go ahead and get these off. Come back on course. Beautiful. We'll ding the forward flight attendants. We'll let them know we're at a 10. Once that is there, I'll come down here. We'll go here. We'll do this. We'll go like this. Oh, she's doing a wonderful job. A little bit of left bank out here. Yeah, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I like the zero reactivity. I think sometimes it's almost too quick to react. Like, watch, I'm going to, and it doesn't happen every time, but if I go right aileron here, see that one's pretty normal. That one felt pretty good. I mean, because I shouldn't, yeah, I like the zero reactivity. I gotta say, I went back to that zero reactivity all the way around, and I like it. I like it. All right, everything looks good there, so let's go live camera. Oops, we don't need you again. That's just, that track likes to play on its own. We'll go autopilot 1. Everything else is done up top. First officer will come down here, we'll copy the active, we'll go rad nav, clear it out, and we'll go ahead and put on Delta Ops on number 2 out of Atlanta. I still need a new mouse. The goal for returning from training is to have a new mouse for streaming when I come back, because this mouse is just not cutting it. I think the settings you sent work great, Douglas. Okay, good. If you like them, then obviously everybody's got to have their own personal, and it's my own personal preference. I think I just like. I would rather it react when I expect it to react than try to do more, and to make it react, and then go into the real airplane and be doing too much. You know, I'd rather do not enough in the real airplane. So it's like I'd rather have my sim setup be a little bit more conservative than the real airplane. That way, when I'm in the real airplane, I don't end up, ham fisting. We call it ham fisting when you're just all over the place and you're out of phase with the airplane. You guys have probably seen that one departure. Was it Gibraltar? I can't remember which airline it was, but that was a simple instance of the captain or first officer, whoever was flying, was completely out of phase with the airplane. They were going full left, airplane was going full right, then they would flip, and then, okay, well, he just commanded a roll rate to the right, full right, and he's holding it, so the airplane begins to roll to the right, but now he's already thinking too much right, he goes back to the left, and then the airplane just did this. Wong, 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 wong. That was just being out of phase. ham-fisting of the controls. I get a ham fist, like a big block of ham. I don't know. I don't even know how that makes sense. But anyway, we're 16-2, climbing 350. We're doing good. We're looking good here. Gibraltar, yeah. Gibraltar was. Stirring the porridge, that's another one. Yep. Should you change pitch if you get wind shear after takeoff? Jeremy, that's a good question. That's my wind shear memory item. So, wind shear Toga is the call. So go Toga thrust no matter what setting you're at, and then you're going to follow the escape guidance. So the flight director will actually give you wind shear escape guidance, and you're going to try to follow it as best as possible. If the autopilot's on, the autopilot will actually follow the command bars on the wind shear escape guidance as well. But it's Toga wind shear. The non-flying pilot is going to read the rad altitudes, and if you're climbing or descending, so for instance, it'd be you're 500 feet descending, 400 feet descending, 400 feet climbing, 400 feet level. You know, be reading the rad outs so the pilot flying is getting an idea, because you're so focused. Trust me, in a real wind shear, I've had a couple of them, you're so focused right here, you get that tunnel vision starts to bleed down on you, and we'll go ahead and set standards. But you hear him or her calling those numbers out so you get an idea of what's happening, and then that will also help you get out of the wind shear recovery, which then you have to go ahead and reconfigure the airplane, because you do not change configuration in a wind shear. Unlike a go-around, the call is go-around flaps. You go from full to 3 or 3 to 2, but in a wind shear, we don't do any of that. You want to maintain configuration, and that's the big difference. So if you maintain configuration and you're at Toga thrust and you don't realize that you're out of the wind shear, guess what's going to happen to your speed? You're going to overspeed something, either a flap or a gear potentially. So that's why we got to be Johnny on the spot with those altitude calls for the non-flying pilot, so you can recover when it's time. My wife just heard ham fisting and asked with a disgust face, "What are you watching?" I don't even know. Where did it? Somebody in comments. Where did ham? I guess I have. No, we're not going. I'm not falling for it. Look, Caco's trying to bring us down the rabbit hole here. We're not going to fall for it. That's a term. Done. You guys go Google it. Google machine. Have I been to Costa Rica in real life? I have. I love Costa Rica. Beautiful place. Do they simulate wind shear in X-Plane 12? David, I think Active Sky does. That's a question for Gustavo. Gustavo is our resident X-Plane 12 expert. All right, everything else looks good. We'll come down here and do a cruise systems check. Speaking of, I'm just going to, any limitations I can think of while I'm going through this, I'm going to do them. So,
Mic check.
Can't hear you. Our packs flow. So 38, 48, we're below that. How many passengers do we have? Let me look at SimBrief. SimBrief says we have 131, so we're below. So we'll go pack flow low. We should see, yep, there goes the pack flow control. So the pack flow valves are going in a low position. We'll just save a little wear and tear on the packs, save a little fuel, theoretically, although I don't know how much or if it's even measurable, but that's what they tell us, right? Pressurization, electric looks good. Batteries aren't discharging. Generators got the load. IDGs are at a normal temperature. Good deal. Hydraulics are all green. Y'all remember why this is below the green indicator box there? That is a normal indication in flight. But there's a reason that that's not up at that green box. Fuel is balanced. Looks like we're a little out of balance. We could do a little fuel balance for a refresher. APU's off. Nice and cool. Doors, pressurization, wheels, and flight controls all look good. Did you know Airbus 350 did its climatic testing at Eglin Air Force Base? Yes. Well, Scott, I would imagine. So, yeah, there's been some cool, a lot of, I've seen several airframes do their testing, even in Phoenix, Phoenix, Arizona, when I think it was the Embraer 190s, they were bringing or maybe it was I think it was the 190s, they were doing that rapid, super cold up at altitude and then bring it down to 125 degrees. Ham-fisted apparently was first used in the First World War, originating among pilots, flyers. Very cool. All right. Well, Gino Hoffman's got the answer. Appreciate you. Yep, landing gear stowed, Aviator Nick. You're correct. So it's the gear is being held up by hydraulic pressure. Thus, the pressure is outside is in the lines and not in the reservoir, so it's going to indicate a little bit lower. Looks like we're going to head up over Lake Lanier. Everything looks good. Beautiful. I think I'm going to turn the cabin back on. I'm going to turn cabin back on. I do save some frames though. Turn cabin lights. We'll do cabin viz on. Oh yeah, that's just nice. I remember as a student pilot taking off from 4 left at Honolulu after a Boeing 717 took off from 8 left, and my CFI wanted me to experience what wake turbulence felt like. Thor's hammer, good learning experience. Douglas Phillips, my goodness. Well, that's one way to find out. That's one way to find out, man. That'll do it for sure. GR says 1918 Bishop Winged Warfare 30 fist. The instructor would tell me I was ham-handed, that I gripped the controls too tightly with every muscle tense. Interesting. Ham-handed and mutton-fisted, slapping the old things every day. Wow. Okay, well. When will the escape lights automatic? You're talking about the photoluminescence? They're going to go on at any time because they're not battery powered. Photoluminescent light strips, escape path lighting. They will illuminate. That's why it's actually part of the crew or the flight or the cabin crew to turn the cabin lights on bright first flight of the day, so it charges up the photoluminescent strips on the floor. I've been watching a lot of V1 videos, so I've learned a lot about the bus. Good deal, Aviator Nick. It's been fun. CFI Mike, great teacher. Yep, that's one way. Learn through experience. You won't forget. Worst wake turbulence I ever experienced was behind a helicopter. Oh, yeah, that is a serious one, V2 plus 10. So that is a very serious. Helicopters, I used to see, matter of fact, when I did my CFI check ride, which is, it's probably one of your hardest check rides that you do if you go the CFI route, is your actual CFI oral and then the CFI practical. Now, the way we did it at the school that I was at, we had a partner. So my CFI partner, we were friends, we'd study together, we'd cross-reference lesson plans, etc. And then on the check ride, we went together. So it was, I went first, and he sat in the back, and I was up front with the examiner and did the check ride, and then I would then sit in the back and watch him do his check ride. And when I had completed mine, I was at Williams Gateway, Mesa, IWA there in Phoenix. And so we were taxiing out. I'm in the back now, and we were taxiing out, and there was a 152 or like a 150. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. It's just a 150 in front of us that had just a couple airplane lengths ahead. Actually, quite a few airplane lengths ahead. But on the adjacent taxiway, there were two H-60 Blackhawks that were not even flying. They were just taxiing on the taxiway, but the adjacent taxiway. And as they went in front of that airplane, that rotor wash came down, and it almost blew that 150 off the taxi line. So we stopped. So he stopped immediately, set the brake, and the examiner's like, "That's very good. Yeah, rotor turbulence is very dangerous." And it is. It almost can be more dangerous than an airplane wake turbulence, because you're going to get it in areas where you wouldn't expect, like on a taxiway. So that's definitely a good point to keep in mind. How would you recover from a stall if you're in wind shear and already in Toga? You just keep going, Jeremy. It's the same. If you're in a wind shear, you're complying with the wind shear. So if you're stalling in a wind shear, that means the wind shear is causing you to stall, which means you just keep flying the escape guidance. That escape guidance, though, theoretically won't let you stall, because it's going to request that you pitch to keep it below alpha max. But again, remember, a good pilot is always aware that anything can happen, variance in wind. With all the protections we have, it is theoretically possible that you could exceed the angle of attack, even with protection. But that would just be a bad day. My first time flying at night, I had a Chinook hovering just to the left of the runway, hit the rotor wash. Woohoo! First night flight, oh my gosh, that'll do it, Swarm, that'll do it. What about the Boeing 777 for long haul when you feel like it? My name is Gabriel. but I love your vids and I keep missing live stream. Well, Gabriel, welcome to the stream. Yeah, we'll do the 777 when it comes out for sure. Are you going to Boston or Newark? We're going to go to Boston. We're going to go to Newark. Don't worry. We're going to go to Newark. One night we were doing touch and goes at Lanai, no visual references, and I got into spatial awareness situation. Mike took over, and I learned so much from that. Took the instruments for, oh yeah, spatial awareness. That's a good one. I bet you can do some real good spatial awareness training out on the islands. You just go out, turn out away from the island, and it's just black, right? Yeah, that's a good place to learn that for sure. Helos don't fly, they beat the air into submission. That is correct. Back in the old days, we used to fly 152s behind 74100s. The younger generation would scream. Well, when I was a flight instructor, we used to get thumped by F-16s at Phoenix out of Luke Air Force Base. Thumping was because we shared the same practice area. There was a deserted field way out in the mountains, or out in the desert rather, that had an ILS system to it. So everybody would practice approaches to it, and these F-16 guys would do it as well. What they'd find, it's an F-16. They see you on radar, you're making radio calls, and what thumping was is they would either, most of the time, they'd come up from underneath you. So you'd be flying straight and level, whatever, doing an approach, and out of nowhere, an F-16 would just rocket above you, like just right out in front of you. And then you'd fly through that wake, and it was short-lived, but it was a very aggressive wake. Sometimes they'd actually dive down. I had one guy he went inverted in front of me. So like we're flying straight and level, and I'm looking at his canopy as he's diving 90 degrees to the deck. I'm like, well, this is gonna be fun. And then somebody complained, as they probably should have, and then that was no longer allowed, and they really cracked down on that. So, I'd love to do cross-country flights at night with IFR, especially when it was new moon. Full moon shouldn't be considered night flying. Yeah, full moon you could definitely see. All right, 32 for 35. We're almost to the top of climb. Once we get to the top of climb, we'll talk a little bit about the landing, because I think I've nailed down what's happening here in the Phoenix. I think, and we'll see. You guys, maybe you can agree or disagree. We'll talk about it. And then we have to get into the 3 different types of Airbus landings. And then we can see what I do in Newark and see what kind of landing I do. Will it be normal? Or the other 2 options. I strongly consider doing my training in Tempe. I lived in Tucson for many years. Sound like we've been in Tempe. Oh, Gary, yeah, for sure. I dated a girl out of Tempe. Matter of fact, yeah, that incident with the Blackhawk when I got my CFI, I think we were still dating. She lived down there in Tempe. It's like I didn't want to go on that second flight because I was going to get out there at Mesa, but I was like, well, I can't leave my partner behind. I got to, because we were based out of a different airport. I'm like, well, I'll just go back with you. I'm not gonna. He rode through the whole check ride with me, so I'm not going to abandon him. Does DCDU? Yes, it does, Chris. It does. What's more fun, in real life or sim? Oh, it depends, man. You know, Microsoft Flight Sim or whatever sim you use, X-Plane, flying in the sim is fun. Like, there's no doubt about it. You don't have any stresses. You don't have any, like, other real-world problems. At the end of the day, you're always safe. It's just pure enjoyment. And you go home, or you stay home and do it. You know, real-world flying, a little bit different, obviously, in that aspect, but it's also very enjoyable. But you can, and just like sim flying, you can get burnt out on both. You know, you really can. I'm very much looking forward to actually getting back on the line. I wasn't anticipating being off the line the entire month, 1,000 feet to level off. I wasn't anticipating being offline for a whole month, but it was I think it was actually a well-needed break. It just kind of worked out. So there are 3 options. What was the type of landing that the 7.3 did in John Wayne during Hillary, where the landing gear went through the wing? That, in my opinion, was no shit. Let's get into this now. So we're leveling at 350. Seatbelt sign is coming off. I'm going to turn the sim down a little bit more so we're not just blinded. Let's go full realism mode here before we get into story time. Or not story time, really. This is, we'll call it ATPL theory. That's there. We'll do that. We'll do this. We'll do that. Beautiful. That's pretty much realism mode for real life Airbus pilots sitting on the jump seat. All right. Discipline when it comes to the rest is generally overlooked, but just as important as discipline when it comes to hard work. Yes, that is true. That is true. All right. MQ-9 Reaper drones. Yeah. I know, Jeffrey, the kid that said it wasn't butter. I can't believe it, man. That I thought y'all were joking when he said, "Oh, there's a kid that said it's butter." All right, so I've got my all right, good, that'll work. I've got my little camera here, my little handy dandy 319 model. I love this little model. Actually, this actually came from Airbus. I ordered it from Airbus when I passed my Airbus type many years ago. I'm pretty sure it's just, it's probably made in China somewhere. But this is actually from Airbus, which is pretty cool. I don't think you can, at least I haven't looked on the Airbus website in a long time, but I do love that little 319. Throwing out hard butter icons, I know. Oh yeah, tray table. We'll get them both out. Both tray tables out. All right. So let's talk about normal landings in an A320. A normal landing is anything that you would consider either a good landing, a really good landing. Sometimes good landings just aren't super smooth. So, it's in the touchdown zone, it's on center line, it's firm, whatever. It happens, we move on. But a good landing is when a normal landing is when you bring the aircraft over the threshold, you arrest the descent rate, and the airplane then touches down. Okay, now how much you arrest that descent rate is going to obviously impact how many G's you're going to put on the airframe and how hard that landing is going to feel. Now, there's a couple things before we get into the oh shit and the well shit Airbus landings. We have to understand what's happening in flare mode with the 320. So in the 320, when you come across a number, depending if you're into, mind you, this is different in a NEO, 50 feet, it's going to know what your pitch attitude is. It's going to, THS is frozen. And then at 30 feet, it's going to begin pitching down to give you that kind of conventional feel that you need to go ahead and pull back and flare the airplane, or power coming off the airplane, you're going to flare and touch down. So that's essentially what flare mode is. It memorizes your pitch, and then it starts to trim down very slowly too. It doesn't trim down rapidly. The actual airplane, I think it goes to whatever the pitch angle is and it trims towards a 2-degree nose low over how many seconds? 3 seconds? I can't remember what it is. But if you do the math, a typical landing, the trim or the nose down moment is going to be very slow. So, but it's enough that when you're sitting there in the seat, you definitely feel it, right? That is what it triggers the internal pilot in you, that internal gut feeling. Oh, the nose is lowering. We don't ever want to land on the nose, right? You never want to land on the nose. You're taught that from day one of PPL training. So when you feel the airplane start to lower the nose, you're like, okay, there we go. Time to flare. A little bit of aft pressure, arrest the descent rate, and set the airplane down. 8 seconds? I think it's 8 seconds. That sounds about right. So you can imagine, let's just say you're 4 degrees, and that's, say you come across the threshold at 4 degrees and it's going to trim to -2. That's a change of 6 over 8 seconds. That's really not a lot of movement. So if you come over the threshold at 2 degrees nose up and it's going to go 2 degrees nose low, that's only a change of 4 over 8 seconds. That's a very slow pitching moment, but it's just enough to trigger that gut instinct in the pilot to say, hey, time to flare the airplane, buddy. That is what flare mode is. Okay, with that noted, we've been discussing ad nauseum here the Fenix flare mode, and does it land well, does it not land well, and I think I've got a good grasp on it now after doing multiple landings, and you probably saw the picture in the Discord if you're in my Discord. But if you can successfully bring the Fenix over the threshold in a normal position to land, stable, which is about, depending on your configuration, between 2.5, 3, maybe 4 degrees. 4 is getting a little high. Nose up in a 320. So if you're stable there, 2.5, 3 degrees nose up, stable across the threshold, the airplane actually lands and everything feels very good. Okay. If you're not stable at 50 feet, This is when things start to go awry. And this is real world stuff. So now let's talk real world. Let's bring out the oh shit landing, or the oh shit flare mode, okay? What happens is if you're on an approach and you're not fully stable, or you're not fully stable as you come across the threshold, or you come across the moment in time at when the pitch attitude is frozen. So let's say you're fighting gusty winds, or maybe you're fighting a headwind that's shifting to a tailwind, or actually the other way, a tailwind shifting to a headwind, and the nose is starting to pitch down a little bit, and you come across that moment in time where it memorizes your attitude lower than optimal, okay? So instead of your 2.5, 3 degrees nose up that you're supposed to be, the THS is locked at 1 degree nose up, or almost wings level. All right, so now you cross at wings level or 1 degree nose up, and then the airplane starts to trim the nose further down because it's entering flare mode. Now that is going to trigger that internal core of the pilot saying, wow, that's oh shit. That's why it's called oh shit. We're going to hit the nose first. It feels very wrong. And I'm talking a small difference here. 1 degree, if you come across at 1 degree and then the airplane starts to go into flare mode, you will feel the difference. Numerically, it sounds small, but in practicality, you can definitely feel it. So that's what you come across in a lower AOA than you're supposed to. Flare mode activates, and you're staring at a whole lot of pavement in front of you. What do you say? You say, oh shit, and then you do what's called the late or abrupt flare, okay? And when you do this, there are a couple things that are going to happen. There's 2 outcomes. The first outcome is you flare too abruptly and too much that the airplane actually will balloon on you. And you float, and this happens in real life. You get floating landings in real life. You get ballooning in real life. That's option 1, okay, when you have that late abrupt flare. Option 2, which is what I think happened in John Wayne, is when you do this late flare, you are not only going to potentially balloon the airplane, if you're late enough, the actual act of you flaring late is going to drive the main landing gear into the pavement. So even if you've arrested the descent a little bit, but you are still actively flaring as the wheels hit the ground, you're going to greatly increase the amount of G's felt on the airplane. So remember what I said, a normal landing is you come down, you flare, you arrest the descent, and then typically you're pretty much done flaring as the airplane touches down. And in some cases, there's a technique, especially in a 321, whereas if you want the butter of butters, you actually release a little bit of back pressure. So what happens to those mains? Those mains actually kind of reverse trend or really slow their trend towards the pavement right as you touch the pavement, making the landing extra buttery smooth. But if you are in the act of flaring while the mains hit the ground, that is what you call driving the mains home, and it can be very, very hard on the airframe. So you can have a decent landing, or at least a decent, what you think is a decent approach, and then you go to flare, but your flare is too late, and you drive those mains into the ground when they hit you're flaring while the mains hit the ground. It's going to feel very hard. And I think, by just looking at that poor video quality, cell phone quality of that Alaska and SNA, I think that might have been what happened there. Those guys came across, they were battling some crazy wind conditions, and it just looked nasty, but it almost looked like it was a little bit late. And then who knows what the winds were doing to the airplane. I'm just totally spitballing here. But they could have been actively trying to arrest a last-minute descent while the mains hit the ground. And what did we talk about in crosswind landings? They had a crosswind from the left. In a perfect crosswind landing, your left main is going to touch down first, right? We already talked about that. So if that left main went through the freaking wing, that tells me they must have had a pretty hard impact on that main gear, and I think it could have potentially be for a late flare or an active flaring while the mains hit the pavement. All right, like someone smashing down the side of a seesaw. That's a good way to put it. Jacob, welcome to Commercial Pilot. Glad to have you on board, man. Glad to have you on board. Exclamation point, welcome for your new perks here. So that's your late abrupt, quote unquote, oh shit flare came across the threshold lower than optimum. Okay, so if that's that one, what's the opposite of that? Well, the other one is the, well, shit. That's the one where you are like, there's nothing else I can do. We're going to hit hard. Now, I have real world experience of both of these. I'll tell you a story on each one here at the end of this discussion. But let's flip the conversation. So instead of your optimal landing, you come across 3 degrees, you bring the power to idle, you flare, you arrest the descent rate, and the airplane gently kisses the runway. All right? So we've already talked about that. We've talked about coming in nose low, flare mode activates. I see a lot of pavement. Drive the gear into the ground. The other aspect of this coin is you come in a little bit higher than you're supposed to. What I mean higher, I shouldn't say higher. When I come in at a greater angle of attack than optimum, all right? So if 2.5, 3, maybe 4, depending on your airplane, is the normal AOA or pitch attitude when you come across the threshold, and that pitch attitude is memorized and the THS is frozen, all right? What happens if you're fighting winds and outside elements and let's just say you were fighting some wind, you got low, and then you started climbing, or not climbing, but you really started to increase that AOA to slow that descent rate so you get back on pappies and cross the threshold at 50 feet. But when you do this, let's say you come across at 5 degrees, 5.5 degrees, nose up, THS is frozen, okay? Now, and you have to remember, this is all going to take place in a matter of probably 3 or 4 seconds. So it happens very fast. I'm slowing the whole process down so you get an idea of what happens. If you come across at an AOA higher than optimum, and I'm talking degrees here, like not a lot, just 1 degree, even half a degree can make a difference. When you come in at an angle of attack higher than optimum and that THS memorizes that position, something is going to happen here a good way to explain it is just you're out of juice, okay? So when you're at a higher angle of attack, you've got more drag on the airplane, your indicated airspeed is going to want to bleed off more rapidly. If your indicated airspeed bleeds off rapidly because you have a higher angle of attack than optimum, you have a little bit more drag, you're going to run out of juice to flare that airplane. What I mean by running out of juice is when you go to actively flare, nothing is going to happen. And basically, when you go to flare and you don't have any juice, that descent rate is just going to stay the same, and you're going to ride that puppy all the way down. And that's where you have the last 2 seconds, last second and a half of, well, shit, this is going to hurt. And there's nothing else you can do. You can't pitch up anymore because you don't want to hit the tail. And you're not going to pitch down because you don't want to hit the nose gear. But there's really nothing else you can do. You came in too slow, too high AOA, you got to ride it out here. So that instance is fairly common, and the first time you encounter that as an Airbus pilot, it's pretty wild. So to put it in actual form, my first experience with both, with the well shit one here that we're talking about, I was a new hire on a 319, just like this. I was first officer, 319. We're going into Chicago, flying with a moderately senior captain who seemed to know what was going on, and super like gusty winds in Chicago. Just that turbulence was so bad it kicked the autopilot off twice on the approach coming in. So I mean, that's how rough it was. We were definitely fighting the elements. And we're coming down the approach. He's hand flying, and we come across the threshold, and he's fighting it. We're getting gusts, and we come across the threshold at like, I don't know, 5 degrees nose up, somewhere around there. I can't remember. I just knew it felt higher than normal. All right. Well, guess what happens when it's time to retard? Power's already spooling to idle because it felt the auto thrust is fighting the winds, and it just happens sometimes in the Airbus where your auto thrust is not going to spool up in time for you when you need it most. So you have a loss of wind, airplane pitches up, auto thrust is still at idle because it's reacting to the last gust where it didn't want the extra thrust, so it's bringing the power back, and now you're at a high AOA over the numbers, and you're going below VAP or VREF, and you're starting to get into VLS. When that happens, if you try to flare in VLS, the airplane doesn't really respond very well, if at all. If 90% of the time when that happens, you're just going to ride it in. And sure enough, 50 feet, retard, and he's had the power in the climb detent the whole time, but it's not responding because the auto thrust is reacting to the last instance of gust, and he goes to flare, and I remember distinctively going like this the last like second of it, because you just know it's coming. Airplane is just doing this, kaboom, and just absolutely smashed it onto Chicago, that north runway there, going in, landing to the east, or landing to the west rather. So that was a real application. That was my first experience of the, well, shit, there's nothing else you can do. You got no more thrust, you got no more speed, you can't flare it anymore. You can go around or you can just let it settle. So that was scenario number one. I'll get to the second one here in a second. Let's get to a couple of super chats. Gary Stewart coming in with a $20 super chat. I appreciate you. Thank you for the $20 super chat. Very, very kind. He says, when low-level wind shear alerts go off in the tower and advises you of a wind shear alert by 20 knots loss on final, is it automatic go around, or you can compensate by disconnecting, adding thrust? Have a beer on me. Gary Stewart, I appreciate you. So 20 knots is a specific number that would actually require would probably require a go around. 20 knots is right at our limit for a runway specific wind shear. So if you're landing on 17 center and they say 17 center 20 knot loss, that is a runway-specific wind shear at our limit of 20 knots. If there are any other high-risk factors, which at that point there probably is, it's just an automatic go-around. It's not worth going through it yourself. So you would then commence a go-around. Now, depending on SOPs, that number could be different. It could be 10 knots. So if it's a runway-specific at 10 knots, maybe that's an automatic go-around for you. It just depends on airline-specific. For us, 20, that's our cutoff on a specific runway. Now, if you said there's a runway specific, if it wasn't runway specific, just a wind shear in the area, then I need one other high risk factor or two low risk factors, such as, there's some, you can see other possible factors of wind shear, maybe dust devils and things like that. But thank you, Gary. I appreciate you. I hope that answers your question. Appreciate the $20 super chat, my friend. And Dennis also gifted 5 more memberships to the channel. So if you picked one up from Dennis, make sure you say you're appreciative of that. Thank you, Dennis. Very, very kind of you. All right, and so let's get back to it here. The other example was me personally. What happened on my first oh shit landing? It was a heavy 321 going into DFW. Still new first officer. I think it might have been maybe. I hadn't had very much time on the 321. It was a brand new 321 too at the time. We're coming into DFW. We're landing 17 left, and early morning, the winds on the field were very swirly. It was like variable at 10, if I recall, which is kind of a weird wind readout to have. That just means the winds, are kind of swirling all over the place. They're not really from one direction. Maybe you've got the earth is starting to heat up, especially in Texas summertime. As the sun comes up, it starts to heat up. You get these thermals, and it can make for some bumpy rides. But variable at 10, you just got swirly winds all around you. We're coming in 321. I'm flying, and I'm thinking the whole time here, I'm like, okay, I don't want to hit the tail. And that's what they always tell you in training. When you go to the 321, make sure you don't hit the tail. Don't hit the tail. Don't hit the tail. 9.7. So theoretically, 7 degrees is what we would say is your max pitch for landing in a 321. 7 degrees max, no more than 7. You don't need more than 7. And if I'm being completely honest, anything more than 6 feels very uncomfortable. You go above, 6 degrees is pretty much at the limit that it feels normal. Above 6 degrees pitch in the flare, getting towards 7 degrees, it does feel very uncomfortable. So you just kind of learn that the more you fly the airplane. So, but here I am, young first officer, don't really have much experience on the airplane, don't have hardly any on the 321, and I'm thinking tail strike. So I'm dealing with these winds, and when the winds are swirly in the Airbus, and on any airplane really, the airplane kind of does that little, not a Dutch roll, but it's reacting to the winds in all different angles, right? So it kind of is like rocking around. Sometimes the nose comes down, sometimes it comes up. And it's not violent. It's just this kind of slow oscillation as it's responding to all these different variations in wind. So that's happening to me. I'm on the final. I'm hand flying. And I look at my PFD right before we come across the threshold. And I'm like, oh, man, I'm already at 3 I'm already at 3 degrees nose up, which is pretty high for a 321. The 321 has a different flap, depending on which 321 you're in. It has a different double slot in the back. So you come in a little bit flatter at flaps full. You actually come in about 2 degrees. 1.5, 2 degrees is about normal in a 321. So I'm coming across the threshold at 4 degrees, which is abnormally nose up, right? So this is what we talked about. Or, excuse me, all the way around. I was coming in pretty much wings level, and 2 degrees is about normal. 1.5, 2 degrees. I'm pretty much wings level as I cross the threshold. Okay. So I'm like, okay, don't hit the tail. I've got plenty of room. I got plenty of room to flare, right? Because I'm at wings level. Cross the threshold. That trim starts to, or that flare mode activates, and it starts to bring the nose down more. And, you know, it might have been 1/4 of a degree that flare mode activates, but it's enough to trigger that gut instinct from your core as a pilot, like don't land on the nose. And I got nervous. I had an abrupt flare, and as I flared, I drove the mains right into the pavement. It was that, oh shit, I'm late flare, boom. Because I was so focused on the attitude, not hitting the tail. I'm just looking at the attitude. I'm not listening to my call outs. I'm not just young pilot rookie move, right? And so now I'm late. I'm late on the flare. I'm like, oh shit, flare, boom. Drove the mains right into the ground. And that actually printed a load 15 report. A load 15 report is a hard landing. It's has to be over 700 feet per minute, I believe. Or I think the load 15 will print at 600. So it's a very firm, and an associated G load. You have to have a specific G loading with it as well. But it printed a load 15, and the airplane actually bounced. The captain took control, landed it fine, and I'm just, I'm going to we're taxiing in. My head is down. I'm like, I'm so sorry, man. And it's actually a good friend of mine, my buddy Felix. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. I completely screwed that up. He's like, you're all right, man. It's fine. We'll see what maintenance does and all that. A literal 250-hour pilot move, no. You need more time to get hired at an airline in the States than I think 1,500 hours minimum. But at the time, I still had probably 4,000 hours. Still low, probably literal 250 321 gray shirt. I probably less than 250 hours on the 321 when this happened. I'd say less than 100 hours on the 321. And so we go to the gate. The maintenance is automatically notified when that load 15 is reported. So maintenance comes to the airplane, and I'm like, oh boy, I'm going to be in trouble. Am I going to get fired? What are they going to do? And so he comes up when he's talking to me. He's like, oh, okay. That was, it wasn't that bad, whatever. When you're looking at it, he's like, well, these airplanes, and theoretically, in theory, he said, since the airplane was brand new, it was printing load 15 reports at a more conservative G impact than normal. So it was actually in the 550 foot per minute range, and the G load was actually a little bit less. So it wasn't a true load 15 report. It was just because it was a brand new 321, the way it's configured, because you can have it print this impact report you can set it up. I think the standard, like I said, is around that 750 foot per minute mark with an associated G load of more than like 1.8 Gs. So it wasn't a true load 15, but I still have to claim it. I did get a load 15 report printed, even though it might have been a little bit more conservative. And I'll tell you what, it was firm. Like, it was a hard landing. I'm not trying to downplay it. It was hard. I felt terrible. I thought I was going to get fired. But there was no damage to the airplane. And, there are those that have and those that will. You fly the Airbus long enough, things are going to happen to you. But those were my two initial experiences. And then I had, just recently, I had another, not me personally, but the FO had the well shit landing in Atlanta. I think it was probably the last trip I did where at like 20 feet, I even on the mic was like I knew we were gonna impact, because he came in high, that speed bled off. We're approaching VLS. He goes to flare. You got no deceleration. That puppy is just, you go to flare, doesn't matter. Kaboom! We impacted hard on 2.6 right. So it just happens. Yeah, but you try to get better, and it's something that you only can truly combat by experience, because, and this is what I'm gonna wind back this whole discussion back to the Fenix and Microsoft. So there is no substitute for physical aircraft experience. So landings in the airplane, because the landings in the airplane, newsflash, they do not feel the same as they do in the simulators that we use to train them on. In fact, I would say that the level of accuracy that the simulator provides, the level D sims that we use to train, compared to the real thing, is the same gap, is about the same size gap as there is from the best desktop simulators we have as simmers to the level D sim, okay? Because the way a level D sim flies and operates, it's close, but it's not like the real airplane. I've yet to be on an airplane that flies exactly the same as a level D sim. And in some cases, the level D sims, they actually fly a little bit more difficult than the real airplane. So there is a gap between training simulator and the airplane, and then there is a gap between Microsoft Flight Simulator and our level D sims, because I think that's what most data can come from. You know, what does it happen in the sim? We look at sim footage, people are in the simulators, what does it do? So, and you're never going to close that gap, right? You're never going to close that gap. It's just a limitation. You know, when we're flying in real life, and I can feel the airplane start to get nose low on me as I come across the threshold, I feel it in my seat. I can feel it in the seat of the pants. I can then attempt to remedy the situation by maybe flaring a little bit early, right? And to settle that down. In Microsoft, we don't have that luxury, right? We're literally just coming down a stationary picture in our comfy chairs, and we see, oh, that's weird. We're getting a little bit low on the pappies. I wonder why. Or we're getting a little bit high. You don't feel it, right? So it's a weird sensation, and it will never be accurate to the real thing. It's physically impossible because you're not in the real thing. So the best we can do is get as close as possible, and I think that's where we're at here with the Fenix, because the Fenix is doing things right, but what it's combating is the sim elements, whether it's a glide slope that's off, whether it's your pappies that are misaligned, whether it's the flight sim itself fighting the Fenix. So the Fenix is reacting to, for instance, turbulence, right? We have to turn turbulence low because mechanical turbulence in the simulator is not real world turbulence. You have to program how airplanes react to this mechanical, human engineered turbulence in the sim. And it may not be correct to the real thing. It can't be, because it's not the real thing. So these little things that we experience on our approaches are destabilizing us, causing us to either come in at lower than optimum or come in higher than optimum when we're flying in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And I think this also comes into play when you look at both sims versus Microsoft versus X-Plane. X-Plane environmentals have always seemed to be a little bit more controlled to me than in Microsoft, whether it be turbulence or wind shear or icing model. Like we all know the icing model, how funky it can be in Microsoft, right? Other than cumulus clouds in X-Plane 12, I guess they do that weird swirly thing that we encountered, but I guess that's been around a long time. So that's just kind of my whole take on it. So I think the Fenix is doing a good job. I really do. I think the problem lies within us and our landings. I think we are, even if you just look at the first stream I did in this latest update, the first one I think was pretty darn good. Then we came around again, and then I was high, or I had a high AOA over the numbers, and I was way slow on speed, and I was flaring into VLS. And I'm telling you, if you try to fly the real world Airbus when you're approaching VLS, it ain't gonna slow down that descent rate, man. It's just not going to happen. It is 90% of the time, if you're below VREF and you go to flare, 90% of the time you're going to smash that airplane. Like it's just well, shit, nothing else I can do. Might as well ride it down. I'm not going to pull back anymore and hit the tail. So just ride it out, be ready for a bounce recovery if you got to do it. That's why it's called the shit landing, because you have nothing else. You're out of options at that point. That's just being an Airbus pilot. It happens to you. Is your name actually... Gary. Bigfoot says, I love your videos. I've been watched all while this flying in the sim. Keep up amazing content. Bigfoot, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for the shout out there. We just went on a little tangent for the landing modes here. No, I'm not doing any fantasy football, man. I don't have time for it, unfortunately. This is what I look forward to on these streams, V1 sound effects. My company has the load 15 automatic printout at 2.6, and we have to do a safety report landing 1.85 G. I wonder if we're coming to the same and uses similar rules. I think that sounds right. I think 1.8. I think it will print load 15 at 1.8, if I'm not mistaken. But they don't have to do a inspection until 2.6. So I think at 1.8 it'll print the load 15 and maintenance will come out, and then they check to see what the actual G load was, the whole parameters, to make sure there wasn't a tail strike or anything. And if it's below 2.6, then nothing else happens. Maintenance will just say everything's fine. If it's above 2.6, then you'll see them out there. They drop all the flaps to full, config full. They open up some panels. They check for, I think, stress cracks and stuff like that. But I think it prints at 1.8. It's supposed to. What happens if a pilot does damage on an aircraft on landing? Not good, man. It could definitely result in termination depending on who you work for. My Tola 320 says brake system 2 fault but has no instructions. Will it use brake system 1? Yes, it will, Pablos. So as long as you don't lose brake system 1, I can look it up for you real quick here because I was going to open up this book anyway. I think that's just crew awareness. You have a brake system 2 fault. Yep, crew awareness. You have failure of one BSCU channel, so you're good. You still have brake system 1. Is it possible to get a G load report in the Phoenix Tolas? No, I don't believe so. What do you think the load was for that Alaska 7.3? Matt, I have no idea. I watched that Blanco Lirio video, and I know he said that, there could have been, maybe it was potentially already damaged. I don't know where he's getting that information from. I mean, maybe. But, there's another gentleman in the Discord who was flying that same night. He landed at John Wayne that same night, and he said it was one of the toughest things he's done. So I don't know if I'd say it's damage. I think it was the classic case of maybe a late flare, or there was an abrupt flare because of the changing in wind conditions. And remember, John Wayne, you're landing on runways with less than 6,000 feet of usable distance. So that's going to trigger some additional procedures you need to do, which is such as landing within 1,500 feet or wherever their SOP dictates they must land by. So they're trying to get down. They're trying not to float it, and they're battling all these winds. Who knows? Gustavo says, I still think it was side-loaded at flare. Well, I think it would have collapsed inward if it was side-loaded, right, Gustavo? I think it was a crosswind, and they impacted that. I think it was a crosswind. They had the left wing down, and that left main came down, and they drove it into the ground hard, combined with the late flare, and the left main was the only one that impacted, and that popped it through. Or, I guess it could be side-loaded, but it looked pretty... It looked pretty straight even after it popped through the wing, so who knows, man. I'll be very interested to see. I think the FAA, hopefully they'll publish that prelim G load, right? They can tell you how long, or maybe they can tell us how many Gs it encountered. That will be the telltale signs. They'll have access to all that data, which is pretty cool. So I'll be looking forward to that one. Either way, not a very good night for that crew. Aviator Nick dropping a $20 gifted membership bomb. I appreciate you, Aviator Nick. Very kind. Thank you for that. 20 new members to the channel. Aviator Nick, if y'all pick up a membership from Aviator Nick, make sure you say thank you. That is very kind of you. Very, very nice. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Glad you're enjoying the content. Glad you're enjoying the streams. We're going to be back to Australia here at the end of this. I think probably, we'll see. So I'll come back from training, and then I go right into a 2-day trip, and then my sister's in town. Labor Day, I'm going to take some time off. I think our first flight back, we're going to have to find some Fokker ops out of Melbourne. Some Melbourne F-28 operations. Going to have to see if there's any routes for that. This chat is greener than that beauty on the screen. Indeed. Yeah, that's what we like. George, that's what we like, Robinson. We like Green chats around here. I guess once the structure was popped outside of the assembly, it would collapse into the aft spar. Yeah, I just, man, I just don't want. I would not have wanted to be in that flight deck when that happened. I mean, there could have been damage to the airplane, but I doubt it. I think it was just a hard landing. We'll have to see. What has been the airport that you have landed with the shortest runway? Key West was always pretty short. I don't know. What's the shortest one? I don't even remember. Once they get below 5,000 feet, they're all short, man. There's one down there in the British Virgin Islands that's pretty short we land at. I can't think of the name now. There's a couple short ones. 5,000 feet is pretty short. Jet Green. Thank you, Aviator Nick. Indeed. Yeah, Aviator, we're gonna bust out the Fokker. I have all those Fokker throttles, and we haven't even used it on stream yet. Can you do a video on flying FPV bird on visual, Commander Gray? We're gonna be using the bird on this approach today for sure. A load 15 report is it's a landing report. Airport spotter. It's a landing report generated by the Airbus when it exceeds a predetermined G loading. So that is to check for damage. You can configure it. An operator can configure that to be whatever it wants it to be. But I think the standard is right around that 1.8 G mark. And then that'll trigger a report to be notified. My sensitivities as a Bassman are straight linear now, and I think I'm going to leave them at that way. Do pilots sit low in the 320? Every time I see a pic from the jump seat, seems like the pilots sit below the glare shield. If they're in the cruise, I've dropped my seat down. It all depends on where the sun's coming in from, right? Like if the sun is blaring in through here, I'm going to put my seat all the way down, get behind the glare shield. Just kind of depends. But we must be going into some weather environment because I'm starting to lose some frames. Hobart has immense juice. Where's that at? I've been trying to land the RNAV-19 River Visual DC using FSI panel. I just can't get it right. Would love to see it in the updated Fenix. What are you struggling with the River Visual DCA for? What are you struggling with? Just being on altitude, being on speed? I've done a couple videos in the Fenix going into DC, so maybe reference those. You're flying a jet sliver into Boston? That's brave. Well, we're not going to make it all the way there, Gray Shirt. We're going to set up for the stadium visual. I've seen something similar happen to a 7.2 coming down off jack with the park brake on. Trailing link gear didn't roll and it jumped the jack. Oh, went through the left wing. Crimson Ghost. Ouch. So there's a video of a similar scenario in an Airbus that we had that came off the jack. I don't know how it came off the jack, but yeah, the jack went through the wing on the left wing. Hobart is in Tasmania, just south of Melbourne. Ooh. We might have to check it out then. Hobart. Not sure what happened to that guy, but I was mad. There's an FBO called Maverick in FSD. Where's that? Fort Dodge? Fort Smith? When I was working across the field, one of their guys backed a fuel truck into the wing of a taxiing Eagle CRJ. Ouch. Yep. 500,000 or 5,000 a night from us alone for sure. That's some damage. That's not good. BKG Blueface, 8 months of support. Thank you. Says 8 months. By the way, how does bidding your schedule work? So it's actually pretty complex, but in a simple way to describe it, there are a bunch of trips. We call them pairings. And all of the pairings for that base that you're in are put into a pot, essentially. And then you bid on preferences. That's what it's called, pref bidding or preferential bidding. So, for instance, my bidding example is, first thing I like to avoid are red eyes. So my first preference is avoid trips with red eyes. And then I'll put in my second preference. I'll put in trips that start after 7 a.m. because I don't want to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning for a 4 a.m. showtime. So I'll do trips that start after 7 a.m. Then I'll put in trips that end before 1 p.m. That way I can have a nice early finish if possible. And then whatever days off I want. So then I'll prefer off, let's say I prefer off Sundays. I want Sundays and Mondays off. So that's my preference. And then when it's my turn to bid, it goes in seniority order, top to bottom. If it gets to you, when it gets to you, it'll say, okay, these are your preferences. What trips meet these preferences? It'll try to give you all those trips. If it can build a schedule, it'll build your schedule right there. If it can build all but one, then it'll do all but one, and it tries to do the best it can. Now, you can also screw up your bid and toss it out, and then you just get absolutely hosed. If you try to get too specific and don't give it we call it a catch-all bid, where it's like, hey, I want all these specific things. And if it can't do it, then it'll just say unable, and it will throw away all of your preferences and just give you whatever. That's when you get hosed. Thanks for the support, man. On the 321neo, flare mode activates at 100 feet and doesn't introduce a pitch down moment. Why is it different on the CEO and all that? Because it's a different airplane, Captain. Yeah, so that's the other thing to talk about. I saw that NG driver video. I'm sure we're all familiar with that. The Neo in the TOLUS, kind of comparing the Neo TOLUS to the CEO here in the Fenix. So I was going to comment on it. I didn't. Then I was like, I'm just going to leave it. But I was kind of hoping he would join the stream. We can have a discussion about it. But the A320neo, especially with Pratt & Whitney's, are significantly different than this Fenix CEO with CFMs. A couple of different reasons. Right off the bat, Pratt & Whitney Neos have 40 degrees of flaps at flaps full, similar to an IE engine. This in the CEO right here, we're 35 degrees, I think, 35, 37. It's definitely less. So the degree of flap does not align per setting between the Fenix Airbus and the TOLUS Neo, and that's by design. They don't align. It's not the same. A couple other key points. So the Pratt & Whitney's, specifically the Pratt & Whitney's, huge N1 fan. Good, huge bypass, really good low altitude performance. Also really good at deceleration because you have you have more drag out front now, right? You got this big disc rotating. So you bring that power to idle, they tend, in my experience, the 320neos tend to float a little bit less because I feel like they've got that big N1 fan out there. You bring it to idle, just more induced drag, or I guess it would be parasitic drag at that point, right? To help decelerate. And also, you can really feel this on touchdown, more so than even in the flare. Like when you touch down in a Neo, by the time, if you go full reverse, by the time the engine's spooled up to full reverse, you're pretty much already decelerating through 100 knots. That's how quick the Neos decelerate. I think it has to do with, that's part of the factor there, that big N1 fan. You can also throw in the E-rudder. So 320 Neos, TOLUS one included, is equipped with E-rudder, a little bit different. Kind of like almost like an automatic rudder and alignment thing, which would be more so in a crosswind, doesn't really have to deal with flare. But flare mode is different in a Neo than it is in a CEO as well. Also, the 320 Neo has sharklets. A sharklet aircraft is a lot easier to land smoothly than a CEO. As a matter of fact, if I had to rate all of the Airbuses, the hardest Airbus to land, and when I say hard, I put it in quotes, comparatively to all of their cousins and brothers in the narrow-body Airbus, the hardest one to get consistently smooth is a 320 Classic without sharklets. It just, if you're not on it, you're going to just get a chunky landing. It just happens. It's possible to land smooth. It's possible to land, and it only comes with experience and getting more and more experience with it. But the easiest Airbus to land out of all of them is a 320neo Pratt & Whitney's. Okay, that is, they are the easiest to land, they are the easiest to butter, and they're the easiest to handle in a crosswind with E-rudder. So it's definitely different. Now, the only thing harder to get a smooth landing consistently in is a really light A319. For some reason, a classic 319, no sharklets, when you're light, and I'm talking like, pretty darn light, they are very difficult to get a nice smooth landing. I don't know what it is. They just stop flying and they chunk it almost every time. Now I got a lot of practice landing really light and empty A319s during COVID. I was able to get it to land smoothly light with some practice and developing that skill. You almost have to go into it with the mindset, all right, I'm going to come in a little bit lower. I'm going to flare a little bit earlier. I'm going to kind of really try to grease it out. But you really got to time it, because for some reason when that 319 is light, there's just a point where it's like, I don't want to fly anymore. And you just chunk it. But when they're heavy or moderately loaded, they're pretty much the standard across the board. So, I don't think you definitely can't compare the 320 Neo with the 320 CEO with CFMs. Now, if we had a 320 CFM, if we had a 320 with IEs and Sharklets, okay, now it's going to be a little bit more comparable to a Pratt & Whitney Neo, but it's still not the same. There's something about those Neo engines, they just act a little bit differently, and the flare logic is a little bit different. Even rotation's a little bit different, depending on the software load that you have, right? Some of them, for a while, we had reinforced speed checks because some airplanes didn't have the new flare mode, and the Neos had the new flare, or the rotate mode, or law, whatever the hell it's called. I can't remember. There's so many different options. But they're just different. At the end of the day, it's different. I mean, yes, it's the same type rating. Yes, if you're trained to land a classic 320, you're going to be able to land a 320 Neo. It's the same type rating. But to land it well and consistently, you're only going to get that with practice and flying it on the line. There's no other way to put it. That goes back to our last discussion where I said, landing in a simulator is only as good as landing in the simulator. It is going to get you to not crash the airplane. But the airplane is going to land different than the simulator. And then if you look at our desktop simulators, we have that same gap of difference. Our desktop simulators are only going to get so good. They're not going to get full motion sim good because they're not full motion. And they're probably running, those full motion sims run specific software specifically for that airframe. When I look at turbulence and wind shear and stuff, in our level D sims, we don't even have there's none of that stuff is really modeled that well. It's never used. Every landing we do is a 15 knot direct crosswind in the simulator, every single one. And sometimes they may put a little simulated turbulence in there, which just feels like a little vibration because you're not moving. The sim box is not physically moving in all axes. It's just it's vibrating to give you that sensation. And while, yes, that sensation can trick the vestibular system to work and pitch and roll, and it's quite good at doing pitch and roll, but, man, you start doing wind shears and stuff. I've had a wind shear in the real airplane, and I've had multiple wind shears every year in the sim. They're just completely different. Wind shear in the sim is like, okay, this is cool. We're shaking. Yeah, I'm following the command bars. Yeah, okay, cool. But we're going to be fine. In the real airplane, it's like, oh, my God, we need to get out of this or we might crash this airplane. Like, it's completely different. And it will always be different. Just like desktop sims will always be different from level D sims. It's just the way it is. All right. Nothing beats the real thing. You only learn so much by the books, but when you actually do it in practice, that's where you learn. Yes. So that's when I say there is practical learning, and then there is theoretical learning, right? So, and this is the biggest difference between, from what I can tell, and I hope I'm not off base on this one. Maybe in chat you can agree or disagree or throw me some info, because I'm kind of speaking to a realm where I am personally unfamiliar with. I can just go by what I hear and what I see. But the European aspect of training is very theoretical, based on a lot of what is theoretical the right word? Like books, in the books. Okay, you do this pitch angle and this degree of this, and you time your downwind for 45 seconds, and this is how the book says this and this. And I know this because when I had my friend going through training, for his PPL, he's doing ATP theory. Like, that's how they set it up. He's got to do all this hardcore ATP math and calculations before he even gets his PPL. Very theory-based and book-based. Whereas in the United States, training is much different. It's much more, for the most part, practical application. At least through the passages and paths that I've taken, it's been, okay, this is what the book says. Now I'm going to go show you in the airplane what really happens. And an example of this, I had a student when I was working with the Asiana program. I had an Asiana student, awesome friend, awesome pilot. We're good friends to this day. We're doing ground school, and I'm like, okay, so what is a stall? And he told me, he's like, when the 172 wing reaches, I don't remember the number, 13.5 degrees angle of attack. And I'm like, I've been instructing for 3 or 4 years at this point. I'm like, is that right? Like, how'd you find that out? Like, I didn't know. Extremely book smart. Read every book there was, came extremely prepared. We get into the airplane, I'm like, okay, let's do stalls. Could not recover, struggled very much with stalling and recovering from stalls and understanding the practical aspect of stalls. Because you can read about it in a book, but until you're out there doing a base to final short approach with a crosswind and a quartering tailwind, and you're trying to bank over and not go into a parallel runway and crash midair with another airplane that's turning final on the parallel, you don't fully understand the practicality of stalls at that point. At 13.5 degrees angle of attack no one gives a shit. Okay, what I care about is, are you coordinated, and what's your angle of attack in the airplane? Look at your speed, look at your pitch angle. If you have an AOA indicator, which I am actually a huge proponent of, I think AOA indicator should be in trainer aircraft. So, that's just one aspect. Now, that's my job as an instructor, to teach and train, and he became a very, very competent pilot, and actually he's flying 777s right now in Asia, 777 Captain. So, and I still talk to him periodically. We're great friends, great personality, love that dude. He was so him and his partner, they were probably one of the smartest pair of students I ever had. And we got to the point, we're doing sim stuff like G1000 training at the time. And we're just sitting, I'm in the back, I'm running the sim. I'm like, I threw everything I had. I was throwing everything I could, failing everything, trying to trick these guys. But, man, they were sharp as tacks. And ended up being phenomenal aviators. So, that's just, there's a difference. European here, just did my PPL, and you just need PPL theory with 9 subjects and 45 hours of flying, but it is true that I hear we learn more from the books. ATPL theory is a bit harder with 14 subjects. Okay, Jan, yeah, so I had, thanks for your input. So my Barcelona, EAS Barcelona, I had a friend that went to EAS Barcelona on their pilot track or whatever, and maybe he already was PPL, but I don't know what point in his training he was at. All I know is he was still very early on in training, and he was doing ATPL theory questions. He was asking me for help, and I'm looking at the questions. I'm like, oh my goodness, you have to know this? This is hardcore. Because to me, and everybody's different too, but I like to see the problem physically first, or have to actually see it in practicality. I want to see the effects of an aft CG versus a nose forward CG. Show me on a paper airplane, or show me on a model airplane. If I just have to read about the effects of an aft CG and a forward CG, I have a harder time retaining and fully understanding that information. So I think it's, everybody, and also everybody's different, right? Some people, they have to read the book to understand it. Some people have to see it. I'm one of those people that I have to see it. Now, I'm not saying, you're right or wrong. There's right or wrong either way. You need a heavy dose of both. You need to have good theory and you need to have good practical. I'm saying you got to have both. But when you start off or loading up one side over the other, I think that's when problems could potentially occur. I totally agree. I met some Lufthansa cadets in Phoenix, and they get their type rating at 500, but they have 1 year of ground school before they even start. Wow. So that Lufthansa school, if you're talking about the one at Goodyear, they recruited me many years ago to come work for them. I never did, but they offered a nice paycheck back in the day. Gustav says it's a trade-off. They trade experience because there isn't much GA traffic for theoretical knowledge. That's probably true. And again, right, that's... I'm only speaking to what I can see from the outside looking in. I've never trained in Europe. I don't know anybody anymore that's actively training in Europe. But yeah, exactly. We'll be applying for a British Airways cadet program when it opens next month. Any advice you should give me? Man, enjoy it. Go prepared. I have no idea what that entails, but that'd be a good question for Mr. Blackbox 711. I believe he's a captain over there. All right, we do have to set up for some stuff here. So we're gonna bring back to our stream, and we're gonna introduce a scenario here where we have to incur a diversion. But I need to mentally go through these steps. Hold on here. Some text messages. Just making sure I'm not getting an alert for open time because I'm trying to swap a trip out. I'm making sure it's not on the day that I want to swap. Okay, so Newark is on. That's going to be problematic. Newark approach. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to just disconnect from VATSIM because we're going to cause issues for this. The speed beds. Actually, funny story, that school in Goodyear actually owned by United now, and they still let Lufthansa. Are you talking about the one in Goodyear or the one in Deer Valley? Because the one at Deer Valley I know is now owned by United Aviate, which that one at Deer Valley used to be my flight school. So, but yeah, the one in Goodyear, maybe there's two now, I'm not sure, but yeah, the Goodyear, that was the one. I believe it was Goodyear. Yeah, it's Goodyear. Alright, so let's just say we're sitting here like this. This is what we like to call fat, dumb, and happy. We're just, talking to each other, complaining about our schedule for next month and what we have to do. And all of a sudden the flight attendant rings up, call button goes off, ding, ding, ding. We're like, what is that? So answer the call, flight attendant saying, hey, Count, we got a sick passenger back here. We're going to get some information for you. We'll be right back, but it's not looking good. Oh, boy. So when you hear that, now we got to start going through a couple of things that are going to be set into motion. We need to get more information from the flight attendants. They're going to go ahead and fill out an information form for the sick passenger. When that happens, they're going to slide that under the door. Now we're going to be tasked with contacting what we call MedLink. So MedLink is a 24/7 service that will allow us to patch through from the aircraft to an actual doctor on the ground, and they will give us instruction on what we need to do with the passenger, or if we need to divert, or what our best course of action will be. So in order to do that, I first need to pull out my AirInc chart. So let me find that here. I know you can't see me, but I'm looking for my actual charts here. I'm trying to remember where they are. I don't remember where they're stowed. I think I think I'm smart and I took a picture of it. Let me check. Nope, I'm not smart. Need to take a new picture of it. Probably save it as my iPad background is what I should do. Matter of fact, I'm going to do that right when I find it, because I got to find the AirInc frequency. So we go here, search. Not there. I need to go to I'm glad I'm looking for this because I don't know where it is now. MedLink. Alright, here we go. MedLink is a service, blah, blah, blah. I know that. Contact on the ground. Use MedLink in flight. EMER call. They called us. Okay, overview. MedLink dispatch staff. Flight crew airing. Refer to medical action plan. Tab in the QRM. Or the Jeppesen en route chart. Oh. En route chart info. Where is it? There's a MedLink chart in Jeppesen on the en route chart. They say publications. This is where you really hope you get an FO that has it saved. Or a captain that just did this. Gustavo, where is MedLink AirInc information? Contingency situations. Go back. General Airway Manual. Briefings. Not there. Or in the QRM. Okay, well, I'm going to look in the QRM because I can't find it in Jeppesen. Medlink. Can't even find it in the QRM. Herein Communications. Jeez. All right, found it. Taking a picture of it right now, screenshotting it. And, I'm going to save it as my EFB background. Okay, so we got to find out where we are. We're right on the limit. 31.7. Where's Wilmington? So Wilmington is, well, there's Philly. We're not quite there. Wilmington, so we'd be on 31, would actually be on 29.4. So I would go on COM 2, and at this point I would give the flight controls to the first officer, and I'd say, hey, you fly the airplane, I'm going to talk to Medlink. So we were going to set up, we call Air Inc. first on 29.4, which takes 4 years to scroll into here for some reason. We're not going to do it now. So we scroll in 29.4, we call them up, and we say, hey, we need a patch to Medlink. They patch us through. Flight attendants come up. They say, hey, Cap, we got the information for you. Here it is here. They're going to want to know his age, what the symptoms are, if there's a doctor on board. Okay, let's just say we go through all the steps. And they say, all right, well, Captain, we're going to need you to divert to a suitable airport. We don't like the way that this is going. We don't want you to go all the way to Boston. So in that case, Medlink, the doctor that instructs us to divert, they are fully responsible for the outcome of the patient at this point. So we're going to divert. We're going to do what we can. Talk to dispatch. They say, hey, we can a couple options. We can do Philly, but let's just say Philly is backed up right now. We don't want to go to Philly and just be too long and say, what about Newark? Let's go to Newark. I'm going to pull the weather here off in Newark because I want to see what it is. I might have to go into manual weather and clear us out, because I want to do the stadium visual on this. That's kind of the whole point. Let's see what the weather is. 150 at 12, gust 19, 3 miles of rain, mist. Huh. Well, that ain't gonna cut it. The one time we want good weather, we get bad weather. Go figure. The stadium visual minimums require 3,505. We don't have that. We're 3 miles, rain and mist. All right. In that case, why don't we, we're going to just have to clear the weather out, because we ain't going to see anything. So I'm going to go into here. And we're going to go here, and we're going to go, oh boy, that's going to mess us up. Let's just do scattered clouds. There we go. We'll just descend down 1,000 feet. All right, we're going to set scatter cloud. Thrust idle open descent. All right, Captain, we're going to divert to Newark. That's going to set us up for a diversion. So we need to set up a diversion. At that point, we're going to go fix info page. We got to put KEWR. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. We're going to go here, new destination, KEWR, right here. Boom, insert that. And we'll go ahead and enter destination data. So they'll say, Captain, arrival. They say, Captain, why don't you fly present heading, JetBlue 357, fly present heading 060, descend and maintain, fly level 200, and you can expect stadium visual 29 into Newark. Alright, so we'll set up thrust idle, open descent, heading, flight level 200 was set. Let me pull the standard weather. I'm going to go back here. We're going to pull weather again from this, weather request, KEWR for sim weather, send it off. We're going to get new information. Now, to set up for the stadium visual 29, I don't think we actually have a chart for it in here. We don't, so we're going to do the center line fix. No star, no approach via. We're going to insert that, so that's just going to give us a center line, extended center line. You can see that right down at the end there. You can see an extended center line fix. So with that done, let's come over here. Let's get our receive messages. Hopefully the weather at Broken will be okay here. Oh, it's still doing... Oh, it's pulling in. I see what it's doing. It's pulling the real world weather. Let me just make sure. Let's bring down that. Let's bring it down. Altitude bottom. Let's bring the bottoms up a little bit so we get below them. All right. We'll delete. Can I delete this one? Delete that cloud layer. We'll delete that cloud layer. We don't need 100 of these cloud layers in here. Weird. There we go. That looks more like a visual approach. Alright. Now we need to actually build this approach. So the Stadium Visual 2.9, you have to build it. I don't think we have it in here. Let me look. Let me go to my alternate of Newark approaches. I'll build it manually. Stadium, oh we do, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Stadium 2.9. So this is what we're going to build in the box. Because I can't bring this in front of me, you'll see it, you can see it here, but I'm going to build it down here right now. So first perf data, next phase, we're going to say it's 2.9er, 9er 2. That's what it was. Temperature was like 52. Winds are virtually calm. We'll call it 0 for 0. Minimums, we're in a 320, so we'll call it 500 and 900 above field. Touchdown is 17 feet. Let's just give ourselves a 50, or yeah, we'll do it 517 as a barrel ref, just for a rough instance for us. Now we need to actually build this approach. JetBlue 357, reduce speed, maintain 300 knots. Once you're slowed, descend and maintain 2,000. Alright, 12,000. 12 is root thrust out of open descent, 300 on the speed. Alright, we need to load this up via TEB, so I'm going to put in Teterboro first. We're going to go here, put that on top of the CF. There's Teterboro. Alright, after Teterboro, we have Gimme, which is Gulf India Mike Echo Echo. And this is, believe it or not, this is not a selectable approach. You have to build it just like we're doing, and that is at or above 2,500. We'll get the altitudes next. So Gimme, after Gimme, it's Hilok, H-I-L-O-K. That's going here. Insert. After Hilok, we have Slimmer, S-L-I-M-R. That's going here. Insert. After Slimmer, we have Schumer, C-H-U-M-R. Slimmer, Schumer. Oh no, and before Schumer, it's Copco. I missed one. C-O-P-K-O goes before, after Slimmer. Nope. Oh no, I really screwed it up. C-O-P-K-O. Alright, there we go. Now we'll get rid of this. Slimmer, Copco, Schumer. Clear the disco. Insert. And JetBlue 357, turn left, fly heading. Oh, that was weird. Turn left, fly heading 030. Gosh, I hate this mouse. 030. We'll go ahead and set barrel ref key 29901 across the board. All right. Teterboro, Gimme, Hilok, Copco, or Slimmer Copco. Looks all good. Now we got to put our altitudes in there. Teterboro, mandatory at 3,000. So we'll put 3,000 feet right here. Insert U. After Gimme, at or above 2,500. I'm going to make my life easy. I'm going to make it hard altitude 2,500. Insert U. I'm also going to put a speed restriction there as a just kind of help us get slowed up. We'll go 180 knots, 2,500 feet. Hilok is between 15 and 2,000. I'm going to just make this one a hard altitude of 2,000. All right, I'm going off some notes that I have here. I'll make that 2,000, we'll split the difference. Slimmer, we need to be fully configured at Slimmer. So we'll be fully configured at Slimmer, and then Schumer, and then Kopko and Schumer, and then that last fix there, Schumer, is 500 feet. So we need Schumer to be at 500. Insert. All right. That looks good on descent phase. Next phase. We are in selected speed, so I'm going to activate and confirm the approach phase right now. Alright, we're descending down over New York, actually. Probably get a pretty good view of downtown New York. Oh yeah, that's why my frames are toasted. Ooh, look at that. So there's Newark. We're setting up. We could have gone Kennedy or whatever, but they said go to Newark. Alright, let's go over the approach. When cleared for the stadium, visual proceed direct. We've talked about all that. Highlight fully configured by Slimmer intersection. Plan to be final landing configuration by Lincoln Park, which is right there. Slimmer. Weather minimums 3,505. Radar required. Alternate runway 29. Use caution when turning final on approach. Make sure you're aligned with 29. Pappies are located on the right side of runway 29 and the taxiway Zulu. Do not confuse taxiway Zulu with runway 29er. When 29 rails or pappies are inoperative, the procedure is not authorized at night. At all altitudes for noise abatement, or all altitudes are for noise abatement. Vertical guidance, navigate and angle runway 3 degrees off runway 29 Pappy. Okay. All right. So, JetBlue 357, proceed direct Teterboro. Descend and maintain 3,000, and why don't you advise intentions? JetBlue 357, Roger, we'll go direct Teterboro. We're going to need a hold over Teterboro until we're ready. We'll just do a computed hold. We'll insert that. This is good for me, hold entry practice as well. All right, we're going to hold over Teterboro, and I kind of want to change that. The hold, right turns 305. I want to do 220 inbound course, set us up a little bit better. We'll insert that. That's the hold I want right there, 220. We'll put our constraint mode on, we'll zoom the range down, and we're going to descend and maintain 3,000. So 250 knots, and then 3,000. What do you do with the body if the passenger actually dies? There are procedures in place for that. Basically, you got to try to get it out of sight, and move passenger if necessary. So it happens. You fly planes long enough, that will happen. All right, I'm going to actually change these clouds because I'm going to just go. Let's just go few. Make it a little bit more interesting. Few clouds. There we go. That looks better. All right. Let's get our speed brake out so we can descend. Thrust idle open descent. Set hold speed. 230 knots. Descending down to 3,000. Let's get a little extra drag out here. Let's get our speed brakes on. Get our lights on. No ATC. Seatbelt sign can come back on. Now we got to make a PA as well. That's part of the whole thing. All folks on the flight deck. Just an unfortunate set of circumstances here. We're due to some events. Actually, I don't even know what to say. I haven't made a PA in over a month. I don't know what I'm saying. Folks on the flight deck. As you probably can tell already, the airplane, we're turning away from Boston at this time due to some circumstances on the aircraft due to a sick passenger. We're going to actually divert into Newark for the best course of action. So do appreciate your patience with us. We'll be on the ground here in just about 10 minutes. We'll have gate connecting information and plans for going up to Newark once we arrive. But right now I just ask that you be mindful of the situation in the cabin and follow the flight attendant's instructions. Cool. That sounds fake enough. Probably wouldn't say any of that in real life, but what the hell. 9.7 for 3, Newark approach, JetBlue 357 enter the hold over Teterboro, 9.5. Time now, 1931, Zulu. JetBlue 357 Roger, advise when you're ready to accept an approach clearance. We need to brief this. We're set up for the stadium visual, runway 29er into Newark. It's going to be a visual approach. We're going to be on selected speed when we make the final turn there because we have to be cognizant of high angle of attack, low energy turns, and managed speed, potentially triggering alpha floor. So we're going to use selected speed until we are on final, which then we roll out, and you can mash it up for me when I call for it. We've got a visual guidance minimum of 517 feet, 500 feet because we're in a 320 for autopilot use. We might turn that off a little bit earlier. Manual brakes. You know what? Let's use, let's go ahead and get her stopped. Let's use low brakes. I typically don't use those brakes. Let's use low brakes, full reverse, and full flaps. Any questions? No questions. All right, let's go ahead and continue on down. I don't know if we'll get to 3 before we make this turn out. We'll see. We'll see how low we can actually get here. So, I think I have an issue. Wow, that city is drawing in way far away. I installed a bridge mod and visual landmarks mod a long time ago, and then when that update came out for New York, or there was some other landmark stuff, when that got installed, I think I probably need to uninstall that other mod. It might cause an issue, but hopefully it'll be alright. We also need to get replay mode up and ready. Recorder is on, ready to go. Put that over here. What do I think of PRM and offset low approaches? Well, being based in Atlanta, you do PRMs pretty frequently. Offset low, nothing wrong with it. Just don't be a 250 hour, don't pull a 250 hour move and forget to brief it. Like I did. Last time I did an offset loc into Chicago, I'm like, yeah, well, everything sounds good. Briefing, with nice thorough briefing from the FO. And then we're looking at the runway. I'm like, huh. Definitely should have briefed the offset localizer. What is it, 28, whatever that far south runway is in Chicago has an offset loc. Wasn't expecting it. All right, we're actually 3,000 feet, a Newark approach, JetBlue 357. We're ready to accept an approach clearance. JetBlue 357, roger. Proceed direct to Teterboro, cross it at 3,000. You're cleared stadium visual, runway 29er. Quick question, what draw distance do you use? Probably too high right now. Matter of fact, I might knock it down. I think we're at like 160. I might knock it down. We'll see. Join late, Captain Jack. We're diverting. We're setting up. We just set up for the stadium visual into Newark right now. Nah, I think we'll be all right. This ought to be pretty cool, though, because we do have a stadium mod where it actually puts the stadium. Detroit has one for 4 left. Yes, and media is getting angry at them. I think I've flown that one as well. All right, now because this is not an actual true RNAV approach, there's nothing to arm up. We can't arm the approach push button. So let's go ahead and I'm going to begin reducing speed manually. Turn the sim sounds up. So this is almost just like flying an old school selected approach. It says set hold speed, which it won't because we're exiting the hold. Via Fenix minus 10, flaps 1. Let's do this. We also have to have 2,500 set ready to go down because we're going to do manual descent, so 2,500 is blue. Via Fenix minus 10, flaps 2's coming out. Ooh, yeah, there's a view of downtown New York. It looks like it's smoothing out now. I think maybe we just had to load everything in for us. This will be one hell of a replay. We're going to just fly it straight normal, and then the replay ought to be pretty juicy, though. There's MetLife Stadium right there. Jets, Jets. All right, recording is going to start at Teterboro. Recording is on. There's Teterboro. Let's begin an open descent. Thrust idle, open descent, 2,500 blue. We're on the approach. Go Giants. Get out of here with that nonsense. Go Giants. Snoopy Bowl coming up, Flight Sim Guy. We'll reconvene after Saturday. Hopefully I'll be I think I should be at a ground school by the time the Snoopy Bowl starts. If Aaron Rodgers gets hurt in the Snoopy Bowl on Saturday, I'm not going to stream for the entire month of September because I'm going to be so sad. So let's just hope that doesn't happen. And I'm going to blame Flight Sim Guy for it. Go Pats. Russ. Get out of here. Have fun with Zeke. There we go. Right over the stadium. This is so cool. Look, it's got the Giants, and look, they're even set up for the Snoopy Bowl. It's got the Giants logo and the Jets logo on it. Oh, that is cool. That is cool. All right, 2,000 feet's the next altitude. Thrust down, a lope and descent. I'm going to help myself out here, guys, real quick. I'm going to actually... This livery, because it's... I don't know, for some reason... Look, if I hide the cabin... This is why I think I had it hidden earlier, too. This cabin and this livery don't really match very well. I wonder if it has to do with V2 and, like, an old livery, and I don't know. So the cabin's off. I'll give it a little more frames. All right, there's 2,000 feet, 180. All right, remember, we got to be fully configured by Slimmer, which is coming up. So let's just go ahead and manage the speed at this point right now. We could set 500. We'll set 600 for our FCU altitude. Via Fenix, we'll go flaps 3, gear down. And I'm going to select speed again here. We're going to maintain about 160. Remember, I briefed it. So we're going to maintain selected speed, flaps 3 here, because of this real steep bank coming in for the visual. We got a cemetery off our left at Slimmer intersection. Oh, that's a cool shot of downtown New York. All right, and that's about 2,000 feet. Now I'm going to go bird mode, and I'm going to start an FPA down here of about 3 degrees. FPA 3 degree, nose down. We got 600 blue. You can see Newark. Here's our bridge. We got plenty of room between VLS. I'm going to come back just a few more knots, maybe 157. All right, here's that steep turn. Let's go ahead and extend flaps full. Speed brake arm. Thrust out, open descent. Oh boy, we're way high. Autopilot's off. Flight director's off. This is good. We're going to be high on this one. This is why I did this. I've never done this one. Let's see if we can get her down. I don't know if it's going to work out.
$1,000.
All right, we've got to correct that sink rate. We're on speed. Let's see if we do the old float the spoilers. It doesn't react that fast in real life.
100 above.
If you do that real quick in the airplane,
500.
that's a little bit better.
Minimum.
You float those spoilers and you can descend. And we're way too high. We're gonna have to go around. That's right, we'll do a go around.
300.
Go around flaps. Toga, SRS, go around track. Flaps 3. Positive rate. You're up. And tower JetBlue 57 on the go around. JetBlue 57, roger, fly. Present heading. Climb and maintain 2,000. I'll maintain 2,000. Present heading, JetBlue 357. Speed alt star. Flaps 1. That'll bring the thrust back manually there. Let's rebuild our automation. We'll go autopilot 1. Accelerating. We'll keep, I'm sorry, we'll flaps 0. There we go. Flap 0 after takeoff checklist. Alright. Well, do I have to rebuild that whole approach? I would. JetBlue 357, turn left. Fly heading 240, visual approach, runway 4 left. Visual approach, runway, or is it 4 right? I think it's 4 right, right? Yeah. We'll expect a visual 4 right. 4 right. No via. Insert. JetBlue 357, continue left turn, fly heading 210. This is actually good, it's just a visual go around. I'm going to, actually, you know what? Let's come down here. Let's do center line fix instead of the approach. I don't want any guidance. GLS is spicy. 4 right. I just want a center line fix, no star, no via, insert. There we go. JetBlue 357, advise airports in sight. JetBlue 357, clear visual approach runway 4 left. Clear visual 4 left, JetBlue 357. So, let's go ahead and activate approach phase again. We're 135 now. Select speed, I'm not ready for all that. We'll select speed, we'll slow it up to 180. Let's turn it all off. Flight director's off. Manage speed. Manual thrust. Flaps 1. VFE next minus 10. Flaps 1. Give me the bird. Auto thrust is off. That's me. There we go. Visual approach. Maintain 2000. We're slowing her up. Alright, so I know now when I do that in real life, if I get that in the sim, we got to be down much earlier. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad we did that. I've never seen that approach, so now I will be able to correct that mistake if I have to get that again. So I guess really that 500, we should be striving to be at that 500 foot. And so we think we were at like 1200 when we came across that final turn. I'll have to look back at the tape. Gear down, scroll up my go around altitude, we'll leave it at 2000. Phoenix minus 10 flaps. Oh, 3. We're out of sequence on our flaps here. That's just me. Flaps full. Landing checklist. When I put 500, entered flight level 500? I'll have to check the tapes. It's a good thing about doing a live stream. Yeah, so I can see, this is what's causing issues. You see all these like add-ons I have? I think I don't need them anymore because of the world updates. So I've got some conflicting sceneries here. That's what's doing it. I'm gonna have to look into that. Definitely have some conflicting sceneries. Hopefully we can just get a nice landing out of this one. So like right now, my CF is showing me, well, it's not even really working. It's showing me high, but I got 4 reds on the Pappies.
$500.
At least they got the IKEA building. That's nice.
$300. 200.
And what I said about being stable across the threshold, we'll do our best here to be stable.
100. 50. 40.
Oh, freaking
20.
lag.
Retard. 5.
That lag killed it. That lag just ruined a beautiful landing. Oh, but I mean, it felt good. Nose coming down nice and slow. That lag ruined it. We were going to have a nice landing there. This airport is just, I got to uninstall this airport too. This airport really tough on frames. This airport is tough on the framatures. I don't even remember who made this one. You know what's bad when it starts to hurt your eyes. Alright, we're going to stop that recording. Need a new CPU for sure. I don't think this is an any builds Newark. I don't think it's INI. I don't think INI has Newark. All right, we'll go ahead and clear both runways now. We'll reconfigure after landing checklist. Yeah, CPU. The problem, yeah, CPU is definitely needed. This fall, y'all, we'll there'll be a PC upgrade coming here. It's about time. Drzwecki. Yeah, this is Drzwecki. That's what it is. This is the Drzwecki frame killer. It's a nice airport, but I think I need to be running it with a new CPU for sure. Gen 1 i9, Shay, 47, i9 9900. We're just going to take it in right over here to the gate. Wait, Fly Tampa has a Newark? Fly Tampa doesn't have Newark, do they? Yeah, this term almost looks like doubled up or what, but it doesn't look very good. Wait for FS24, they're expecting 10 times better. Well, Randy, I still, you know, as a streamer, content creator, I could definitely use an increase in CPU performance just for other things. Alright, this is obviously incorrect here, so we're just going to stop right here. Set the brake, we'll go right into replay mode because I got to get up early tomorrow and I got to pack and we got to look at everything else. So let's see how we did. We'll get these kind of out here. Let's go straight to the replay mode. Let it load in here for a minute. Not ready for you yet. New PC build podcast? Yeah. I tell you what, AJ, I'll the next podcast is on the next PC build. GNR, take it easy, my friend. Dual PC? No, all in one. All in one. This PC's doing all of the load. There's MetLife. Oh, Tiger Dude, yes, I did. So I ordered a Starlink. Well, I actually had to order it on Amazon. Starlink never sent me the actual router yet, but I got one on Amazon, and the internet is working, but my adapter's not working to the PC that I have at the house for some reason. So now I got to deal with that. We have Wi-Fi, but we don't have anything else. So like my other PC at the house is still internetless because we don't have any the adapter for Starlink. I don't know if it's a dead adapter or what, but it's not registering. The swamp, AJ. Let me see here real quick if I do this. Yeah, right now CPU is 63%, 79. It's fluctuating. I really think this the dual scenery though is messing me up too. Yeah, Tiger dude. At least it's better. We could at least connect to the outside world. PSU is like a 1050, a Corsair 1050 is what I'm running the PSU. Let's see how we came around here. So we should have been 2015. So I'll probably make that instead of the outer between. We're gonna have to make that one at a hard altitude of 1500, and then make sure we come down sooner. That's cool though. You can see Freedom Tower. I bet if I do weather, this would look pretty sweet here. Watch this. Let's heat up the CPU, shall we? That's cool. That's a cool shot. Aviator Nick, thank you for a 35 New Zealand dono. Aviator Nick, appreciate you. Very kind of you. Says, thank you for the great streams over the last month. They have certainly been a blast and a lot of edutainment. All the best for your current training. Hope to see you back here on the Real Bird soon. Aviator Nick, thank you. Appreciate you. Very kind of you for that super chat. Thank you for supporting the channel. Glad you enjoyed it. It's been a fun month. It's been a fun month. And I'm gonna take a little break now for a while. And recharge the batteries. We'll be back in the old Fokker, probably be a Fokker first flight. And we gotta do some 737 ops. We haven't done any 73 ops in a long time. But yeah, we were high and fast here, coming over. Yeah, that ain't gonna cut it. So 1,000 feet rounding the corner. Mental note, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. At 1,000 feet, not gonna happen. So I was trying to pull the old Airbus trick there. It doesn't respond that quick in real life. So maybe, I've never tried a reactivity on roll. Maybe I should put a reactivity on roll. Because in real life, you can, it's like a next level Airbus trick. You rock the side stick left and right. You'll float those spoilers. You'll help descend without increasing airspeed. That's what I was trying to accomplish there. I think I just need a little, maybe a little reactivity on roll then, if that's the case. I just want to see this go around here. Here they go around. Oh, yeah. That's pretty cool. Oh yeah, my PC is done though. My PC is so done. Alright. Fast forward to the actual landing. Let's see how it was with the lag. No, it's not quite a side slip. All it does is just it floats those roll spoilers, so you can float spoilers without actually having the spoilers out and slow down. Yeah, see my double bridges here? Don't think that's accurate. Plus, I don't think that bridge is blue. Yeah, DLC, L10 definitely. DLC on the L10 was pretty sweet. I'd love to have a good L1011 in the sim. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Gary, you've been building PC for 30 years? Nice.
$500.
7.3 Classic Eastern would look great. Yeah, I do like that Classic Eastern livery, man. That is a classic. I like the IKEA building there. All right, let's see if the lag ruined this or not. Pretty sure it did. I mean, the airplane felt good though. Like, just keep in mind when you're landing your Phoenixes, make sure you're stable. Make sure you have a nice approach attitude as you cross the threshold, and I think you're going to be in a good spot. We battle a lot of things in Microsoft that aren't necessarily that difficult to battle in real life. Yeah, so there's our lag. But I mean, it felt pretty good. It felt pretty decent. We're in the touchdown zone. Heck, I would have taken that all day of the week. I can't watch this slideshow anymore, so we'll just wind it back. I'm going to resume it.
Ahead.
Sails coming on.
Up.
Y'all can enjoy what you want to enjoy here, and I'm going to get out of here. So, thank you all. This month has been a lot of fun, a lot of streams, a lot of content. Hopefully I'll be able to chat with y'all in the Discord. If you're a member, I'll be sending some training stuff your way. I'll keep you posted on my updates. Hopefully we'll be back a week or so. Until then, enjoy your sim, whichever sim you may fly, X-Plane, Microsoft, P3D. Nah, I don't fly P3D. FSX. Alright. Beautiful sunset here for New York. Stay safe, stay healthy. Until the next one, I'm V1. See you!
One thousand.